Chapter 504. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's determined look, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion withdrew his gaze indifferently. Speaking as a reminder in his capacity, it is more to see that Chen Daoxian is a rare cultivation talent. But since the other party insists on his own way, he will not waste his words. After cultivating to the realm of Chen Daoxian and him, he has his own understanding of the path of cultivation, and the persuasion of others is of no use to such a person. Therefore, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion did not ask any more questions after he made a statement. Seeing the other party take back his attention, Chen Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. While transcending the calamity, being stared at by such a big boss is indeed a bit stressful. However, fortunately, the other party has already concentrated on refining the fairy weapon and has no time to focus on him. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian completely restrained his mind, preparing to continue through the third thunder tribulation. But before that, he had to recover some of the wounds on his soul. With Chen Daoxuan's current divine soul strength, if the divine soul is damaged by 30%, he can fall into a state of heavy damage, and if the damage reaches 50%, he can fall into a state of unconsciousness. And if the divine soul is wounded to 70%, it is in a state of near death, and the divine soul will collapse at any time. When he crossed the second thunder calamity before, every thunder calamity attack would cause his soul to be damaged by about 10%. The reason why he is still alive and kicking at this moment should be attributed to Lei Hai of Guangyuan realm. However, despite the special environment of the Thunder Sea in the Guangyuan realm, the continuous thunderous attacks still caused some damage to his soul. Chen Daoxian now feels that the degree of damage to his soul is less than 10%, which is regarded as a slight injury. For ordinary tribulation cultivators, this minor injury to the soul will be fine after a period of recuperation. But to continue to transcend the calamity in this state, that is courting death, unless Chen Daoxian has a treasure who can instantly restore the wounds of his soul. It's a pity that the treasures that repair the wounds of the soul are much more precious than the treasures that repair the consciousness. If the divine sense is injured, it does not necessarily mean that the divine soul is injured, but if the divine soul is injured, the divine consciousness must be injured. Compared with the divine sense, the divine soul is the foundation, and the divine consciousness is nothing but a derivative brought by the power of the divine soul. Of course, things that are extremely difficult for other monks are not the same for Chen Daoxian. For him who has mastered the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, no matter how serious the damage to the soul is, as long as the body and spirit are not destroyed, he can use the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic to restore it to its original state. What's more, with the golden scriptures in the Sea of Knowledge guarding, Chen Daoxuan's soul is indestructible. If it weren't for the fact that he had to ask thunder to quench his soul, it would not be considered a simple attack of the soul. With the sole defense ability of his knowledge of the golden scriptures in the sea, Chen Daoxian estimated that he would not suffer even a single soul injury. But in this way, transcending the calamity would be meaningless. Fortunately, the golden scriptures in the Sea of Knowledge were not indistinguishable. In the Sea of Thunder, the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic was continuously read from Chen Daoxuan's mouth, and his wounded soul began to improve rapidly. After reciting the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic 3 times, Chen Daoxuan's spirit finally recovered. Seeing this, Chen Daoxuan's face was overjoyed, and he immediately introduced thunder from the Sea of Thunder and slashed towards his mana and soul. Beyond the Sea of Thunder, Gujian Tianzuan and Wuha Tianzuan stood side by side. At the entrance of the clouds, as the clouds continued to open and close, figures flew out from the Sea of Thunder. Luo Li in the distance stared at the entrance of the cloud layer. Every time a figure came out, her heart rose once, but as the number of figures continued to increase, Luo Li's heart gradually sank. No, not yet. Luo Li's pretty face was pale. Ran Lingxi on the side comforted. Sister Luo Li, you don't have to worry. Chen Daoxuan's cultivation talent is so good, he will definitely choose to spend one more thunder tribulation in the Thunder Sea. One more thunder tribulation? Luo Li, like a drowning man, grabbed the last straw, grabbed Ran Lingxi's sleeve, and asked, You mean, Chen Lang is in this sea of thunder for the second time? Ranlingxi nodded. I heard Daddy say that some Taoists in the creation realm have accumulated a lot, and they are not willing to spend only one thunder calamity in the Sea of Thunder, and they will choose to spend one more time in the Sea of Thunder. In the history of Guangyu and Leihai crossing the robbery, such monks existed every time, and Chen Daoxian must be such a person. For Chen Daoxuan's talent, Ranlingxi can be said to be very convinced. Although she is not very talented, but thanks to her identity and background, she can be regarded as a person with a relatively broad vision. Even so, she has never heard of any cultivator who can break through from the third-level Daojun of the world realm to the Daojun of creation realm in 12 years. You must know that Wuhe Tianzhen's original plan was to bring Chen Daoxian to Wuhe Tianzhen's mansion for diving. His purpose is to let Chen Daoxian fight for the next opportunity to cross the tribulation. Chen Daoxian is 1,000 years ahead of the time estimated by Wuhe Tianzuan. What a perverted cultivation talent this is. Don't say that Ranlingxi has seen it, she has never heard of it. Although Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion is a holy place for monks to practice, but Ranlingxi has been practicing in Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion since childhood, and he has not seen how fast his cultivation speed is. The only explanation is that Chen Daoxuan's cultivation talent is amazing. Wuhe Tianzuan sometimes thinks about it. No wonder when he was in Yaoguang City, he invited Chen Daoxian to Wuhe Tianzuan Mansion, but the other party was still reluctant. Wuhe Tianzuan originally thought that Chen Daoxian said that he would definitely be able to break through to the tribulation transcendence period. With Chen Daoxuan's talent, if he can't break through to the tribulation transcendence period, then who else can this human race break through to the tribulation transcendence period? The clouds opened again, and two more figures flew out. See, the eyes of Wuhe Tianzuan and Gujian Tianzuan light up slightly. Of these two people, one of them actually survived the second thunder calamity. Gujian Tianzuan stretched out his hand, and the two immediately flew towards the top of Tianzuan Mountain. Junior Shen Ming and Su He have seen Ancient Sword Heavenly Venerate and Wuhe Heavenly Venerate. The two who came here respectfully bowed their hands towards Gujian Tianzuan and Wuhe Tianzuan. Gujian Tianzuan and Wuhe Tianzuan nodded and congratulated. Congratulations to the two of you for stepping into the realm of Tianzuan. Afterwards, Gujian deliberately looked at the only young cultivator of the two, who had survived the second thunder tribulation, and said, "If I remember correctly, are you a disciple of the Taiying sect?" The younger generation is from the Taiying sect. The only young cultivator, named Shen Ming, who had survived the second thunder tribulation respectfully said, facing the ancient sword Tianzuan in front of him. He did not dare to be disrespectful. Although his Taiying sect also has a terrifying existence comparable to that of a true immortal, among all the heavenly venerates of the human race, the ancient sword Heavenly Venerate is the first in combat strength. He heard the Heavenly Venerate in the sect say that the strength of the ancient sword Heavenly Venerate is ranked first. All depends on the pure yang immortal sword he carries. Once, when Gujian Tianzuan was rescuing a major city from danger, he used this sword to kill a real immortal level world demon. Although the ancient sword Tianzuan lost all his mana after this sword, it did not hinder the opponent's record of killing a true immortal level world demon with one sword. Although there are some heavenly venerates with outstanding combat power in the human race, but like Gujian Tianzuan, who can use Tianzhen's cultivation as a countermeasure to kill a true immortal, and kill them with a single sword, there is only Gujian Tianzuan alone. The rest are like Eni Tianzuan and others. At most they can only compete with the true immortal level world demon, and even defeat the true immortal level world demon desperately. It is precisely because Gujian Tianzuan has such a perverted strength, coupled with his long-term guarding of Tianzuan Mountain in Guangyuan realm, and has rescued many Tianzuan, the Tianzuan of the human race is willing to obey his orders. The same is true of my newly promoted Taiying sect Tianzuan in front of me. Compared with the more stable Gujian Tianzuan, Wuhe Tianzuan was a little anxious. He quickly asked, "You two are the last group to come out. Are there other monks in the Thunder Sea?" "Have," Shen Ming nodded. "Besides me, He is also another cultivator who has survived the second thunder tribulation. Hearing this, Wuha Tianzuan finally felt relieved. It's good that there is no accident. Although in Guangyuan Leihai to cross the tribulation, even if the calamity fails, there will be no danger to life. But the calamity is always the biggest difficulty in the monk's cultivation career. No one can guarantee that Guangyuan Leihai will make all the monks safe and sound. But now with the assurance of Shen Ming, the newly promoted second Jie Tianzuan, Wuha Tianzuan suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. Chen Daoxuan's talent is excellent, and he is probably the only one in the entire Tianzuan mountain. He knew very well that if the other party didn't fall, he would definitely be a silver wing heavenly venerate, or even an ancient sword heavenly venerate in the future. Although the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate as the main town guard has also made a great contribution to the human race. The top human race powerhouses, with true immortal level combat power, sitting on the Tianzuan mountain and serving as a strategic support force, are even more important. The 8 tribulations heavenly venerate lacks the human race, and the heavenly venerate with true immortal level combat power. The human race is even more lacking. Compared with Wuha Tianzuan, who is concerned about chaos, Gujian Tianzuan is much calmer. He smiled at the 2 new Tianzans and said gently, "You two have just passed through the thunder calamity, and your souls have been seriously damaged, so you should go to rest. Sometime in the future, at the celebration banquet for the success of the calamity, I will personally send a small gift to the 2 of you." Hearing this, Shen Ming and Su He looked at each other and happily bowed their hands to the ancient sword Tianzuan, saying, "Thank you, Gujian Tianzuan." Then he bowed to Wuha Tianzuan. "Wuha Tianzuan, Gujian Tianzuan, I will retire. Go." Watching the 2 leave, Gujian Tianzuan smiled and looked at his old friend. "I'm worried that you are in a hurry. If you don't know, I thought the one inside was your illegitimate child." Hearing the old friend joking, Wuha Tianzuan shook his head helplessly. In the eyes of the 2 of them, Chen Daoxian is also coming out soon. And it is indeed a happy event that the human race has 2 more heavenly lords of the second tribulation at one time. It's not to say how powerful the second tribulation heavenly venerate is, and being able to survive 2 thunder tribulations in a row at a time, to a certain extent, represents a potential. According to past experience, when entering Guangyuan Lei for the first time, the more cultivators who have survived tribulations in a row, the higher their achievements will be in the future. 47,000 years. The holder of this record is a human race heavenly venerate 200,000 years ago. The other party has survived 5 thunder tribulations at one time, which can be said to be amazing for an era. In addition, the power of the demon court at that time was not as strong as it is now, and the real demons in the real demon world fought endlessly, and the situation of the human race was much more stable than it is now. Especially when this human race genius who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations grows up. The world demon who has been suppressed by his own strength does not dare to violate the border. It's not that the power of the human race was stronger than that of the world monsters at that time, but firstly, the power of the world monsters was chaotic at that time, and secondly, this human race genius was indeed powerful, at least stronger than the current ancient sword Tianzuan. That is a terrifying existence who can really fight against the real immortal level world monster with the cultivation of the heavenly deity. But even so, this human race genius was no match for time. In the end, when Shuyuan was approaching, he was unwilling to attack the 9th thunder tribulation, and finally turned into fly ash. And the strongest human race in this era, Gujian Tianzuan, only survived 3 thunder tribulations in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea. It can be said that his talent are not very good compared to those geniuses in the history of the human race. Gujian Tianzuan can kill a true immortal level world demon with a single sword, more relying on the immortal sword he carries. Ray overseas, Gujian Tianzuan and Wuha Tianzuan were still waiting. For a long time, they saw that there was still no movement at the exit of the cloud layer, and a bold idea came to their hearts. Chen Daoxian, shouldn't he be going through the 3rd thunder calamity? Thinking of this, Wuha Tianzuan is okay, but Gujian Tianzuan has a look of surprise in his eyes. survive 3 consecutive thunder tribulations. Can it really be successful? Just as Gujin Tianzuan and Wuha Tianzuan expected. In the Sea of Thunder, Chen Daoxian is going through the 3rd thunder tribulation. Compared with crossing the 2nd thunder calamity, the difficulty level of Chen Daoxian, crossing the 3rd thunder calamity, was significantly increased. The most important change was that after Lei Ting split the soul, the vitality left behind was simply not enough to repair the soul. During the 3rd thunder calamity, Chen Daoxian discovered that every thunderbolt in his Dantian Qi Si could damage his soul to nearly 20%. Then, the vitality left by Lei Ting was only enough for him to restore his soul to 95%. That is to say, every thunderbolt can damage Chen Daoxuan's soul by about 1/20th. If he accumulates like this, before a few thunderbolts, he will be severely injured, and even fall into a coma. For monks in the midst of calamity, falling into a coma is no different from dying. Now for Chen Daoxian, the safest thing to do is not to introduce thunder into the sea of Dantian energy. This is the benefit of transcending the calamity in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea. Thunder is conscious. Unless the cultivator wants to die, it will not really hurt the cultivator, who came here to transcend the calamity. There are 2 choices in front of Chen Daoxian now. One is to give up the calamity, and the other is to continue. If there are no other cards, Chen Daoxian will definitely choose the first one. But now, he chooses the second one. When cultivating a calamity, cultivators are not allowed to use magic weapons. Otherwise they will suffer a stronger thunder force. But some special secret techniques are not included, such as Chen Daoxuan's Purple Thunder Skyfire and his Hongming Enlightenment Classic. As for the constellation technique, Chen Daoxian has not thought about whether to use it or not, because according to the statement that monks are not allowed to use magic weapons, the use of astral technique requires the cooperation of the stars kendo map. Chen Daoxian does not know if this will lead to more terrifying thunder. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website WAP. Chapter 505. Let's try Zile Tianhua first. Chen Daoxian secretly said. After Zile Tianhua continuously devoured the fragments of the Golden Crow, he has been promoted to the realm of the Triple Calamity, and it is suitable to use it to resist the 3rd Thunder Calamity. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's thoughts moved, and the purple flame in the Tanzhong acupoint quickly sank and entered the sea of Dantian Qi. Zile Tianhua is unusually domineering. As soon as he entered the sea of Dantian energy, Chen Daoxuan's sea of mana was forcibly separated by the coercion it radiated. That is to say, Chen Daoxian is the owner of Zile Tianhua, and if he is an ordinary monk, let alone let Zile Tianhua enter the sea of Dantian Qi, even if the body touches a little spark, it will be instantly burned. So domineering, Chen Daoxian glanced at Zile Tianhua and muttered, not only the sea of mana, but the thunder on the top of Chen Daoxuan's head. When it entered the sea of Qi in Chen Daoxuan's Dantian, its power was obviously lowered by a level. As expected, due to the influence of the Purple Thunder Skyfire, the power of the 3 thunder tribulations has been reduced. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxuan's face was full of joy. It is not the key to how many thunder attacks the monks have to withstand. The key is that the monks can use the destruction and vitality of the thunder to temper their mana and soul. Especially to temper the soul, let it slowly transform to the realm of the sun god. Therefore, Chen Daoxian can choose to undergo several times of thunder tempering, thereby reducing the power of each thunder. But the thunder in the thunder calamity is not under the control of Chen Daoxian. Speaking of which, due to the partiality of the consciousness of the Guangyuan world, he had already taken a huge advantage in transcending the calamity in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea. Otherwise, under normal circumstances, the thunder tribulation when the Daojun of the creation realm transcended the tribulation was aimed at destroying the cultivator. In the Guangyuan Thunder Sea, if the cultivator felt that he could not survive the thunder calamity, he could even stop the thunder attack. It is no wonder that every time the Daojun of creation realm broke his head and wanted to get this kind of heaven-defying opportunity, Chen Daoxian felt that despite the weakening of the Purple Thunder Skyfire, The power of each thunder can only cause half damage to his soul. In this way, Lei Ting's vitality can completely restore his soul. Seeing this, Chen Daoxian was overjoyed. He knew that his third thunder robbery was secure. Knowing that he had the confidence to survive the third thunder tribulation, Chen Daoxian calmed down again. He began to carefully appreciate the change of the soul slowly transforming to pure yang. In Chen Daoxuan's experience, as the pure yang breath of the soul is getting stronger and stronger, the strength of his soul is also increasing. This improvement is more like a change in nature. That's exactly what happened. The cultivator's spiritual transformation has been constantly changing since the qi refining period of the weakest hour. It's just that the spiritual soul of a monk during the qi refining period is intangible and intangible, and it is only when the cultivation reaches the nascent soul period that the spiritual soul begins to be nurtured in the nascent soul. But at this time, the soul is still very fragile. The specific performance is that the cultivator's nascent soul cannot be exposed to the body for a long time. Otherwise, the pure yang power of the world will cause indelible damage to the soul. After reaching the primordial spirit stage, the spiritual soul grows further. At this time, the primordial spirit of the cultivator can leave the body at will. However, since the primordial spirit is not strong in combat and is easily targeted by the enemy, few monks will let the primordial spirit out of the body at will. And to the robbery period, since the primordial spirit began to transform into the sun god, at this time, the cultivator's divine soul had quite powerful combat power. Especially the tribulation cultivator, who has practiced some divine soul secret techniques, can even let the divine soul come out of the body and directly fight the enemy's divine soul. Chen Daoxian also practiced the soul secret technique, but as his strength increased, he gradually abandoned this method, because he felt that his constellation technique was many times stronger than the divine soul attack, and the divine soul secret technique was rather tasteless to him today. What's more, with the golden scriptures in the sea of knowledge, the last thing Chen Daoxian is afraid of is the attack of the soul. Dantian gas in the sea. In addition to the changes in the soul, another change is the transformation of mana. Due to the pure yang power in the tribulation thunder, Chen Daoxuan's mana began to gradually transform towards the pure yang immortal power. Compared with the mana of ordinary monks, pure yang immortal power is obviously a higher level of energy. This is a very obvious difference when activating the fairy weapon. Chen Daoxian couldn't activate the heaven-shaking axe many times before he passed the tribulation. But even if he had just passed the first thunder tribulation, he tried to activate the sky-shaking axe, and found that the mana needed to be used was at least 10 times less. And the power it exerts is more than 3 times stronger. At that time, he understood that only by mastering immortal weapons or learning immortal techniques can a cultivator transcend the calamity, widen the gap in strength with the Daojun of creation realm. Otherwise, the cultivator who just passed the tribulation is not much stronger than the Daojun of the creator realm. Boom boom boom. In the sea of Dantian energy, Lei Ting continued to temper his soul and mana, but Chen Daoxian not only doesn't care, but has the intention to study the changes in the heaven-shaking axe after the mana is increased. Far away, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, who was refining immortal artifacts, saw that Chen Daoxian was going through the third thunder tribulation, and seeing that the situation was very stable, he could not help but start to pay attention to him again. After all, in his era, only Gujian Tianzuan was able to achieve the first achievement of transcending tribulations 3 times in a row in Guangyuan Leihai. Although Chen Daoxuan's ability to survive 3 thunder tribulations in a row does not mean that he will be able to achieve the achievement of Ancient Sword Heavenly Venerate in the future, there is still no problem in becoming a Heavenly Venerate with true immortal level combat power. In view of this, the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion naturally has to pay attention to the future top powerhouse of the human race. You must know that in the form that the human race is facing now, every time a top powerhouse is added, the hope of the human race increases. I hope that this will continue to increase little by little, and one day, the human race will break through the darkness and usher in the light. Chen Daoxian didn't know what the other party was thinking. In his opinion, whether he survived 3 thunder tribulations at one time or 5 thunder tribulations at one time, the improvement in his actual combat power would not be too obvious. Because Chen Daoxuan's current strongest combat power is to use the astral technique, relying on the blessing of 1,806 star insect soldiers equivalent to the Daojun of Creation Realm. The actual combat power he can burst out has long reached, or even surpassed Silver Wing this level of Tianzuan. He doesn't know if it can be compared to Gujian Tianzuan, but even if there is a difference, it is very small. What is the concept of the power of 1,800 creators and Taoists gathered in one person? That is to say, Chen Daoxian can no longer use the Dao realm to increase this power after performing the astral technique. Otherwise, Chen Daoxian would dare to use his own power to directly rush into the demon court's lair and kill all the other high-level officials. I do not know how long it has been. With the last thunder, Chen Daoxian finally survived the third thunder calamity. Call. There was a hint of joy in Chen Daoxuan's eyes. It's done. In the distance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, who was refining immortal artifacts, could not help but stand up when he saw this scene. 3 times of thunder tribulations in a row. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion murmured. Ray overseas. Gujian Tianzuan also flashed a trace of joy in his eyes. 3 thunder tribulations. Just now, he opened the cloud portal, allowing everyone to see the changes in the Sea of Thunder. Sure enough, I saw Chen Daoxian go through 3 consecutive thunder tribulations. The exclamations on Tianzuan Mountain came one after another. After 3 consecutive thunder tribulations, is there a second ancient sword heavenly venerate in our era? 3 times of thunder tribulations in a row. Immortal Venerable Guangyuan is on top. There is hope for my human race. Great! On Tianzuan Mountain, almost all Tianzuan are in high spirits. As the top group of people in the entire human race, they know better than any cultivator of the severe situation facing the human race. Chen Daoxian, the newly promoted Heavenly Venerate, who has survived 3 consecutive thunder tribulations, is undoubtedly a booster for them to boost their morale. Other descendants of Tianzuan saw Chen Daoxuan's praise from their own ancestors, and it was the first time that they recognized Chen Daoxuan's name. However, not all of the monks present were happy from the bottom of their hearts. A thin cultivator wearing a crescent-colored Taoist robe saw Chen Daoxuan's face after 3 consecutive thunder tribulations. His face was full of excitement, but he actually frowned secretly in his heart. This matter must be reported to the emperor as soon as possible. The top of Tianzuan Mountain, Ranlingxi almost jumped up with joy. She shook Luoli's arm and said excitedly, Sister Luoli, am I right? Chen Daoxian is talented and can definitely survive the tribulation successfully. You see, he not only successfully survived the tribulation, but also survived it 3 times in a row. Thunder robbery. This time, he is completely famous in the human race. Totally famous? Luoli was a little confused. You do not know. What do you know? Luoli was even more confused. Ranlingxi looked at her in surprise, but suddenly remembered something, patted her forehead and said, I forgot, Sister Luoli, you are not from the inner realm. Ranlingxi explained. Tianzuan Mountain opens the Guangyuan Leihai every 1,000 years, and every time the Leihai opens, a large number of Creation Realm Daojun will enter it, pass through the Thunder Tribulation, and be promoted to Tianzuan. However, there is a big difference between transcending tribulation and transcending tribulation. Ranlingxi sold Guanzi. Seeing Ranlingxi selling out, Luoli chuckled and asked along the other side's words, I don't know what the difference is? Ranlingxi smiled and continued, I heard from my father that the Daojun of the Creation Realm transcended the calamity in the Guangyuan Thunder Sea, not only through the first Thunder Calamity. Theoretically speaking, the Daojun of the Creation Realm can even survive 9 Thunder Tribulations at one time, and directly become a Mahayana True Immortal. What? Luoli was startled. She even dared to imagine that she had survived 9 Thunder Tribulations to become a Mahayana True Immortal. Cough, of course, it is impossible to survive 9 Thunder Tribulations in Guangyuan Realm, But a cultivator can still survive 8 thunder tribulations in a row and become an 8th tribulation heavenly venerate. 8 tribulations heavenly venerate. Luoli glanced at the ancient sword Tianzuan on the top of the mountain, wondering what he was thinking. Of course, in fact, the most powerful person in the history of my Guangyuan human race has only survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Speaking of this, Ranlingxi yearned for it. At that time, although our human race was still huddled in the inner domain, the world monsters basically did not dare to invade the border of our human race. Because of the existence of this top powerhouse, those tens of thousands of years are the most stable and harmonious time for my human race. But unfortunately, Luoli knew what Ranlingxi was regretting. The monks of the human race could not survive the 9th thunder calamity and become a Mahayana true immortal. It is said that the human race will be limited by the world. In fact, because the world level is not enough, it is impossible to breed the thunder that makes the cultivator survive the 9th thunder tribulation. Just like this Guangyuan realm, as a true immortal world, the strongest level of thunder that it can breed is only the 8th level of thunder. In the ancient times, only the real demon world and the phoenix meteor world could breed the 9th thunder catastrophe. In today's era, as the phoenix meteor realm continues to be swallowed up, it has also lost its ability to allow monks to survive the 9th thunder tribulation. In addition, the tribulation itself will have a certain impact on the world consciousness. If it is normal, it will be fine. A little impact is nothing to the world consciousness of the phoenix meteor realm. However, in order to resist the devouring of the real demon world, the phoenix meteor realm was already unbearable. If the human cultivators were still gathered in the phoenix meteor realm to transcend tribulation, I am afraid that the process of devouring the phoenix meteor realm by the real demon world would at least double. As for the human race to go to the real demon world to transcend the calamity, it is not that the human race has not thought about it, but it is almost impossible to implement it. First of all, the confrontation between the human race and the world monsters has been 100,000 years. What are the gods of the human race? And the world monsters basically know the bottom line. Therefore, it is extremely difficult for the human race to go to the real demon world, not to mention the real demon world. In addition, even if a certain human race heavenly venerate had unfortunate luck and successfully smuggled into the true demon realm, it is impossible for him to want to escape the calamity. In the real demon world, to survive the 9th thunder calamity, there is only the holy ancient demon realm among the 4 major demon realms, and the holy ancient demon realm is the home of the real demon realm and the real immortal realm. What is the difference between the human race heavenly venerate going there for the 9th thunder calamity and courting death? All kinds of restrictions have caused the human race monks to fail to give birth to a Mahayana true immortal for hundreds of thousands of years. The hustle and bustle of the outside world did not affect Chen Daoxuan's mentality. After he made some adjustments, he was preparing to continue the 4th thunder tribulation. At this moment, the voice of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion resounded in his ears again. "Boy, what's your name?" Chen Daoxian stopped and bowed his hands to the position of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion and said respectfully, "Junior Chen Daoxian, do you still want to continue the tribulation?" After a long while, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said this sentence. Chen Daoxian nodded affirmatively. "Junior wants to keep trying. Then go try it," the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion promised. "If you can reach his level, I promise you a high-grade fairy weapon." "Who is he?" "The first celestial venerable in the 470,000 years of the human race, Emperor Slaughter Celestial Venerable," the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said lightly. "Emperor Slaughtering Heavenly Venerate." All the information about Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan immediately appeared in Chen Daoxuan's mind. It is possible to restore the peace of the human race for tens of thousands of years with one's own power. And until it becomes a sedentary, the world demon dares to continue to invade the human race's border. The strength of this man's combat power is really incredible. Even if Chen Daoxian succeeded in practicing astral technique, He asked himself that he was by no means his opponent. Because according to the records in the ancient books of the human race, the emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate is obviously a heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations, but he slaughtered ordinary real immortals like slaughtering dogs. If it weren't for the fact that there were too many real immortal level demons in the real demon world, and there were some extremely terrifying old antiques in the real demon realm, this emperor slaughter heavenly venerate might rush into the holy ancient demon realm to forcefully cross the tribulation. Thinking of the achievements of this human race senior, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but feel a sense of heroism in his chest. Senior, what if I break his record? Hearing this, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion was slightly taken aback. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website WAP. Chapter 506. After a long while, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion recovered his expression and said, "If you can break his record, this old man will give you a big gift." Big gift? Chen Daoxuan's eyes lit up slightly. It must be unusual to be called a great gift by the pavilion master of the Chuanbao Pavilion, the first artifact refiner of the human race. In fact, what Chen Daoxian covets the most is not the gift from the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, but the other party's method of refining immortal weapons. Senior, I don't want any gift from you. The junior has a request. Say, Junior wants to learn the method of refining immortal weapons from Senior. Under the black robe of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, the corner of his mouth raised a slight arc. A word is settled. After receiving a positive reply from the other party, Chen Daoxuan's confidence was high. With the help of the purple thunder skyfire of the triple tribulation fire, Chen Daoxian finally survived the third thunder tribulation. But for the fourth thunder tribulation, the purple thunder skyfire alone is not enough. However, Chen Daoxian has another whole card, that is Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. If it is said that the purple thunder skyfire is to weaken the power of thunder and let Chen Daoxian survive the thunder, then the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic is to use its ability to quickly restore the soul to help Chen Daoxian survive the thunder. With the speed of the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic to restore the soul, as long as the thunder power of Lei Jia does not instantly destroy his soul, he can quickly recover. This is Chen Daoxuan's biggest reliance on transcending the robbery. As for the astral art, to perform this immortal art requires the use of the star sword map. Chen Daoxian does not know whether it can be recognized by Lei Jia. If it is not recognized, it is self-defeating. Therefore, astral technique is just a pending option in his mind. Chen Daoxian would not take it seriously if he could use the astral technique to transcend the calamity, let alone the 8th level thunder tribulation, or even the 9th level thunder tribulation. Ray overseas, on Tianzun Mountain, everyone was shocked when they saw that the thunder cloud formed by the gathering of thunder on Chen Daoxuan's head had not dissipated. He's going to survive the 4th thunder tribulation. No way, the 4th thunder tribulation, how is this possible? Could it be that our era is really going to produce an extremely strong man? On Tianzun Mountain, the cultivators were all excited. Aside from a few people, there is no one who wants to go up to Tianzun on Tianzun Mountain and go down to a servant in Tianzun's mansion. No one wants to be destroyed by the world monster. This kind of hatred has nothing to do with everyone's status in the human race, but comes from the instinct of everyone in the blood to hope that the race can continue. The top of Tianzun Mountain, Gu Jian Tianzun's expression also became extraordinarily dignified. He said to himself, "Is it the 4th thunder calamity?" Compared with the ancient sword Tianzun, Wuxia Tianzun knows more about Chen Daoxuan's talent. After all, this one is a freak who has broken through from the 3rd layer of the world realm to the creation realm in just 10 years. It was 1,000 years faster than he expected. This kind of freak, with his tens of thousands of years of life, is also unheard of. Could it be that he really has the possibility to break that record? Wuxia Tianzun whispered. It's just that his voice was small, but it was still heard by the ancient sword Tianzun beside him. That one, you mean him? Well, the first celestial venerable of the human race, Emperor Slaughter Celestial Venerable. Wuha Tianzuan nodded and said without hesitation. When Gu Jian Tianzuan heard this, he looked at Chen Daoxian, who was sitting cross-legged in the Sea of Lei, and shook his head. It shouldn't be possible. You know, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is not only the first Tianzuan of the human race after the ancient times, he was placed in the ancient times, is also the absolute first heavenly venerate. For this evaluation, Wuha Tianzuan very much agrees. Yes, that one, but there is an existence that has opened up another way. Another way. It sounds amazing and talented. But in fact, isn't it the last fight against the hopeless immortality? If the immortal way can be expected, why should another one be created? This road is difficult and dangerous, the road is rough, and the future is uncertain. How can people who do not really embark on this road can imagine it? Unfortunately, it still falls short. Speaking of this, Gu Jian Tianzan's eyes were extremely dim. Even with the talent of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, there is no way to go, and future generations dare not go. This is also the reason why no one dares to take the other side's path in the future. In addition, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is worried about misleading future generations, and all the inheritance of this path is brought into the grave. At this point, even if future generations want to study this path, there is no way to start. The practice of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was also criticized by countless descendants of the human race. They said that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan disregarded the situation of the human race, abandoned the safety of the human race, and would rather take this inheritance into the grave than pass it on to future generations. This is also the reason why many human race heavenly venerates are reluctant to mention him after the death of Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate. But Gu Jian Tianzuan, as the first Tianzuan of the human race in this era, knew that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan did this, and there must be his reasons. As for some rumors that he was selfish, Gu Jian Tianzuan even scoffed. For 470,000 years, any of the countless human race heavenly venerates may be selfish, but the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate will not. Because he is the only one who has the possibility of becoming an immortal among countless heavenly deities. But he chose to give up. In the Sea of Thunder, Chen Daoxian has already begun his fourth thunder tribulation. As he had expected, the power of the fourth thunder tribulation was raised by another level compared to the third thunder tribulation. This time, even if his soul is strengthened and the power of thunder is weakened by the purple thunder skyfire, each thunder can still damage his soul by 20%. In other words, one thunderbolt can make Chen Daoxuan's soul close to serious injury, and 3 consecutive thunderbolts can make him fall into a coma and die. Obviously, if there are no other means, Chen Daoxian will never be able to pass this fourth thunder tribulation. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian was not in a hurry, and immediately recited the Hongmeng Enlightenment Sutra that he had recited for an unknown number of times. The road is silent. Even if Chen Daoxian was being watched by countless eyes and consciousness at the moment, they could not see the scriptures that Chen Daoxian was talking about. Chen Daoxian knew this for a long time. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic seems to be known only to him alone. Even if he wanted to teach it to Luo Li and the others, he couldn't do it at all. Dantian gas in the sea, the divine soul, which had been hit hard by the thunder, recovered almost in an instant. At the same time, the pure yang breath on Chen Daoxuan's soul instantly became stronger. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian was overjoyed. He knew that he had passed the fourth thunder calamity. Sure enough, just as he expected, the fourth thunder tribulation was passed safely. So far, Chen Daoxian has surpassed the first heavenly venerate of this era, Gu Jian heavenly venerate. Lay overseas, countless celestial beings like Wuha Tianzuan inquired about the origin of Chen Daoxian. For the top heavenly venerate, who is about to appear in the human race, anyone who has a heart for the human race heavenly venerate is excited and happy. Fourth thunder tribulation. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes and moved his muscles and bones. At this time, the voice of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion came again. Would you like to take a break before continuing? Saying that, a bottle of medicinal herbs instantly appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. This is. Chen Daoxian took the elixir, opened it, and said with a look of surprise, Return to the immortal pill. This thing is not an ordinary elixir, but an elixir. Chen Daoxian never thought that in addition to the artifact refiners who can refine immortal artifacts, there are actually alchemists who can refine elixir. This gave him a new evaluation of the strength of the human race. This elixir is extremely precious. If you want to hit the fifth thunder calamity, you can take one to nourish your soul and go through the thunder calamity. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said slowly. It seems that he is even more nervous than Chen Daoxian about whether Chen Daoxian can survive the fifth thunder calamity. Although he didn't know why the other party cared so much about whether he could survive the fifth thunder calamity, Chen Daoxian still received his favor. He bowed his hands towards the position of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion and said respectfully, "Thank you for the pills, senior. No need to be polite." After the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said such a sentence, he remained silent again. Ray overseas. Gu Jiantianzuan saw that the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion even took out the immortal pill, and he couldn't help laughing. This old guy Chuanbao is very stingy on weekdays, but he is more generous today. Wu Tianzuan shook his head and said with a smile, "You don't even think about who he is." Hearing this, Gu Jiantianzuan seemed to think of something, and his eyes lit up. "You mean?" Wu Tianzuan pursed his lips. "I didn't say anything. You guy." Gu Jiantianzuan laughed out loud. But thinking about the origin of the Chuanbao Pavilion, and looking at the performance of the current Chuanbao Pavilion master, at this time, Gu Jiantianzuan felt that the possibility of his guess was getting bigger and bigger. If so, Gu Jiantianzuan suddenly felt a fiery heat in his heart. In the Sea of Thunder, Chen Daoxian held the Huishan immortal pill in his hand, but did not take it immediately. Nonsense. His soul was not injured at all. Taking this elixir, wouldn't it be a waste of life, and would be struck by lightning? Well, even though he's being struck by lightning right now. But elixir. It was the first time he had seen the elixir with his own eyes. Although this item was of no great use to him, in the future, whether it was for Luo Li, Fei Qinxue, or the Qin clan, it would be a peerless treasure to help him overcome the calamity. No matter how bad it is, Chen Daoxian can also give one to Wu Tianzuan, and the other party just has to cross the eighth thunder calamity. Wu Tianzuan has a great kindness for him, and Chen Daoxian is not someone who knows his kindness and does not repay it. Put away the elixir. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and began to experience the fifth thunder tribulation again. At this moment, everyone on Tianzuan Mountain held their breath, as if they were afraid of disturbing Chen Daoxian. Even Gu Jiantianzuan couldn't help holding his breath. The fifth thunder robbery. Everyone said silently in their hearts. In the Sea of Thunder. The thunder cloud formed by the thunder has turned into a pure black color. Even with the help of the world consciousness of Guangyuan realm, Chen Daoxian felt an unprecedented pressure, and under this pressure, he couldn't help urging astral art. Because he knew that with the power of the thunderclouds in front of him, there was no means that could give him a sense of security, except for the astral technique. This fifth thunder calamity is not only aimed at his mana and soul, but this thunder has even had an impact on his Taoism. Chen Daoxuan's appearance. Gu Jiantianzuan was a little worried. Looking back at the history of my human race, when I first crossed the calamity, there were many people who survived 4 consecutive thunder tribulations, but only the emperor who survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Dao Xian, but nothing outside can help you. He looked at Chen Daoxian and whispered. Wu Tianzuan saw this scene and remained silent. The fifth thunder tribulation is by no means easy. Otherwise, for 470,000 years, there will not be only one person in the history of the human race who can do it. Boom! A beam of lightning directly poured into the top of his head from Chen Daoxuan's Baihui point, and then went straight to his Dantian Qi Si. Then a huge thunderous sound came out. If it weren't for the space barrier between Guangyuan Leihai and the outside world, the entire Tianzuan mountain would be razed to the ground with this blow. Even if there was a formation on Tianzuan mountain. What a terrifying thunder robbery! Even after the fifth thunder calamity, Wuha Tianzuan still felt lingering fears when he saw Chen Daoxian crossing the calamity. The fifth thunder tribulation was Wuha Tianzuan, who felt that it was the most difficult of all the thunder tribulations. Because this time, the thunder tribulation is not only aimed at mana and soul, but also torturing the cultivator's Taoism. But they don't know that Chen Daoxian has risen from the smallest point after 2 lifetimes. As far as Taoism is concerned, he has never been afraid. In Chen Daoxian's sea of consciousness, various illusions appeared. He saw that Uncle 13 did not wait for Tai Shinshui, sitting in his arms in the cave mansion of Qitong Mountain, looking at the bare Qitong Mountain outside the cave mansion. He also saw that Luoli had reached the limit of her lifespan, but she was unable to break through to a higher cultivation level, so she sat in his arms. He also saw that the human defense line was captured by the world monsters, and the cultivators of the Chen family were slaughtered and swallowed by the world monsters. Countless tragic experiences related to him began to appear in Chen Daoxian's sea of consciousness, as if it had really happened. Even though he knew that these were all illusions, Chen Daoxian couldn't help feeling sad and resentful. But no matter how sad and resentful he was, he kept a little clarity of Lingtai, and did not sink completely. The Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, that he recited silently in his mouth, did not stop for a moment. I do not know how long it has been. The thunder cloud dissipated, and Chen Daoxian opened his eyes. There was only a tear in the corner of his eye. Far away, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly stood up. Even ignoring the immortal artifact he was refining, he raised his head with tears in his eyes. 200,000 years. 200,000 years. Finally let the old man wait. The figure of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion disappeared instantly, and then his figure appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Seeing the sudden appearance of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion, Chen Daoxian immediately bowed his hands to him. Junior Chen Daoxian, I have seen Senior. You very good. Very good. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion patted Chen Daoxian's shoulder heavily, choking on his words. He had so much to say, but didn't know where to start. The outside world has been rumored that the Chuanbao Pavilion existed in the ancient times, and has continued to this era. But who can know that the history of the Chuanbao Pavilion is only 200,000 years old? The so-called inheritance from ancient times is just a rumor. In truth, Chuanbao Pavilion does not even have a long history of Qianyuan Jianzong. I said, if you can break his record, the old man will give you a big gift. But I haven't broken his record yet. Chen Daoxian was a little puzzled. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion smiled and shook his head. Enough is enough. Enough. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 507. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian breathed a sigh of relief. After 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, he has almost reached his limit. Although the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic can quickly restore his soul, the power of the 5th thunder tribulation is too terrifying, and every thunder can destroy more than 30% of his soul. Just one blow can seriously injure his soul, and 2 thunderbolts can make him dying. The 5th thunder calamity was so terrifying, and when he passed the 6th thunder calamity, wouldn't it be possible to damage his soul by more than 50% with a single blow? At that time, he had passed out, and he didn't even have a chance to recover by reciting the Hongmeng Enlightenment scripture silently. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian naturally did not dare to take risks. Although he didn't know how the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Chen Daoxian knew that his accumulation in the creation realm was actually not deep. He was able to survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row, all relying on the 2 trump cards of Zilei Tianhua and Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. Of course, Chen Daoxian also has a stronger whole card, Astral Technique. However, the execution of the Astral Technique requires the star's kendo map. This technique is very likely to conflict with the thunder tribulation, and it will be self-defeating at that time. Besides, after 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, He can be regarded as equaling the record of the first celestial venerable of the human race. Chen Daoxian can foresee how much sensation his current behavior will cause to the outside world, which is undoubtedly contrary to Wuha Tianzin's low-key behavior. However, Chen Daoxian was not too worried. According to Wuha Tianzuan, when his strength reaches the level of Silver Wing Tianzuan, there is no need to worry anymore. But he didn't know that Chen Daoxuan's real strength was no less than Silver Wing Tianzuan. The top of Tianzuan Mountain, Wuha Tianzuan exhaled slightly. It's over. End it. Gujian Tianzuan was overjoyed. Wuha Tianzuan heard the joy in his old friend's words, and also smiled. This is a rare event for my human race in hundreds of thousands of years. Gu Jian, tell me, how should I train him? Naturally, it has to be cultivated well. Gu Jian Tianzuan thought for a while. I will hold a Tianzuan meeting later to discuss this matter together. Heavenly Venerate Conference. Wuha Tianzuan was slightly startled. Isn't it too much to hold a Tianzuan meeting for a 5 tribulations Tianzuan? Gujian Tianzuan waved his hand. Wuha, you don't have to worry about some criticism from the outside world. Whoever wants to get this kind of treatment will go through 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Heard. Wuha Tianzuan was stunned for a moment. And then he laughed. Haha, what you said is very true, not far away. Seeing that Chen Daoxian had survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Ran Lingxi almost jumped up with joy. Sister Luoli, have you seen it? He actually survived countless thunderstorms in a row. It's incredible. Seeing Ran Lingxi's excited appearance, Luoli finally let go of the heart that Luoli had been carrying. Compared to outsiders who care about Chen Daoxuan's achievements, only Luoli can really care about Chen Daoxuan's safety. At this time, when Luoli saw that Chen Daoxian finally passed the thunder tribulation safely, his joy was second, and no longer worried was the biggest feeling of Luoli at this time. All this is thanks to Wuha Tianzin's efforts to cultivate my husband, Luoli said to Ran Lingxi with a smile. Hearing this, the joy on Ran Lingxi's face became even stronger. For the human race, every immortal city in the extraterritorial battlefield is not only a battlefield for the human race monks, but also an examination room for the heavenly venerates to select outstanding juniors. This is how Chen Daoxian was picked by Wuha Tianzuan and sent to Tianzuan Mansion for training. However, when Wuha Tianzuan chose Chen Daoxian, it was not because of his talent, but because of his immortal merits for Yaoguang City. Who knows, by mistake, Wuha Tianzuan actually picked a peerless genius. In the Sea of Thunder, Chen Daoxian looked at the pavilion owner of the Chuanbao Pavilion, wearing a black robe in front of him, and asked, Senior, what do you mean by the great gift? Seeing Chen Daoxuan's eager appearance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said with a faint smile on his face, Didn't you say that you don't want the big gift from the old man, and only learn the method of refining fairy weapons from the old man? This? Chen Daoxian looked embarrassed. Seeing Chen Daoxuan's embarrassed appearance, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion stroked his beard and smiled. Don't worry. I will teach you the method of refining immortal weapons, and the old man will give you the gift that I promised you, but... Chen Daoxian looked at him quietly. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion continued. But this matter has to be discussed at the Tianzuan meeting. Heavenly Venerate Conference? Chen Daoxian was slightly startled. Even as a cultivator in the Fengyan world, Chen Daoxian had heard of the name of the Heavenly Venerate Conference. This meeting can be said to be the highest meeting that decides the important affairs of the human race. The minimum cultivation level of the participants must be the Daojun level of creation realm. Of course, with Chen Daoxuan's cultivation at this time, it is more than enough to participate in the Tianzuan meeting. However, it is said that the participants of the Tianzuan meeting only need to be at the level of Daojun in the creation realm. But those who are truly qualified to speak at the Tianzuan meeting must be high-level Tianzuan. In other words, the rest of the middle-level and low-level heavenly venerates and the Daojun of creation realm are all foils. However, Daojun of creation realm is the reserve for the Terran celestial lord, and the middle and low-level celestial lord is the top powerhouse of the Terran. They must know the situation of the Terran as soon as possible. In this way, the human monks can work together to fight the demons. Otherwise, the human race can't even unite internally. So don't talk about fighting the demons. Okay, let's go out first. You've been here for so long. I guess it's going to be a mess outside. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian nodded. In this case, the junior will retire first. Go. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion waved his hand. Chen Daoxian also cupped his hands towards him, turned into a flash of light, and flew out towards Lei Haiwei. Fly out of the Sea of Thunder. Chen Daoxian rushed to Wuhe Tianzuan immediately, and bowed to the other party and Gujian Tianzuan. I have seen Wuhe Tianzuan and Gujian Tianzuan. When Wuhe Tianzuan saw Chen Daoxian, the joy on his face could not be restrained. You must know that this is the arrogance of the human race, that he personally selected. Isn't he honored? Gujian Tianzuan smiled and waved his hand. Fellow Taoist Chen, don't be polite. Now you are also the Tianzuan of the human race. Just call me and Guha Daohao directly. Speaking of which, Dao Yu Chen, you haven't given yourself a Dao name, have you? Give yourself a name? Chen Daoxian was stunned. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't seem to know anything about this, Gujian Tianzuan explained with a smile. My human race Tianzan's Dao name, rather than a Dao name, might as well be called a nickname, an honorable name. Just like Wuha, his Dao name is related to his practice, and my Dao name Ancient Sword is related to my fairy weapon. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian unconsciously glanced at the immortal sword that Gujian Tianzuan was carrying. Of course, there are also some people's Dao names, which are related to the names they have made, such as killing the emperor. Chen Daoxian couldn't help laughing bitterly when he heard the mention of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan again. He knew that in the future, more people would compare himself with the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, because he, like the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, was also a cultivator who had survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. However, although Chen Daoxian is not comparable to the strength of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan at the peak of the time, he asks himself that he is much stronger than the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, when he was also the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. In other words, Chen Daoxian does not believe that at the level of the 5 tribulations Heavenly Venerate, there are still people who can be stronger than him. After 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, Chen Daoxian had no time to feel how much stronger his strength had become. After all, although his mana, body and soul have undergone a transformation, his secret techniques and instruments have not been further cultivated. Chen Daoxian is not sure how much his strength can be improved. If he didn't use astral technique, Chen Daoxian felt that his strength had indeed crossed a large level. But if he used the astral technique, he felt that his strength would not be improved significantly, because the power of astral technique has little to do with cultivation. In the past, his strength was his own creation realm Daojun strength plus 1,806 star worm soldiers. But now, it is only the strength of Wuji Tianzuan plus 1,806 star Dao soldiers. The increase in strength is actually not an exaggeration. Of course, astral technique is the strongest trump card in Chen Daoxian's hands, and he won't use it unless he has to. Therefore, in the eyes of the outside world, Chen Daoxian has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and it is not an exaggeration to call it a leap to the sky. It is foreseeable that next, it is estimated that the threshold of the Wuhe Tianzuan mansion will be stepped on by the congratulatory people. Seeing Chen Daoxian's expression of contemplation, the two of them did not rush. Half an hour. Chen Daoxian raised his head and said, Senior Gujian, this junior hasn't figured out what kind of Dao name he should call. Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and said, It doesn't matter. You can think about the Taoist name slowly. Maybe someone else will give it to you in the future. After speaking, he paused. Compared to the Dao name Daoxian, your mansion on Tianzuan Mountain needs to be established as soon as possible. That's right, the Tianzuan Mountain Mansion, even if it's a symbol of status, is an excellent place to practice. I believe you have experienced it. Gujian Tianzuan echoed. Early build a mansion, and let your relatives and relatives behind you enjoy the help these treasures bring to your practice. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian's eyes lit up. Not to mention, the abyss of Wuha Tianzuan Mansion, has made Chen Daoxian jealous for a long time. He himself does not covet the land of the abyss, but his Chen family and the disciples of Qingyuan Jianzong need this treasure land. In the future, Chen Daoxian will even be able to reward the best disciples of the Northern Immortal League with the cultivation quota of Tianzuan Mansion. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but have a look of longing on his face. Anzuan Huangji, now that he has been promoted to the realm of Tianzuan, the Xianhuang realm has officially become the realm of Tianzuan. Although compared with the creation realm, this Tianzuan realm has not changed much, but the potential of the Tianzuan realm is incomparable to that of Chen Daoxian when he created the realm. In other words, his heavenly venerate realm can expand again. You must know that his Xianhuang realm has been stuck in a diameter of more than 300,000 miles for a long time. After saying goodbye to the two heavenly venerates, Chen Daoxian immediately flew to Luo Li's side and looked at each other gently. Who knew this scene was interrupted by Ranlingxi, who had no vision. Cough, stop looking at you two like that, you're going to be numb. Ranlingxi said carelessly. That's right, Chen Daoxian. You should build Tianzan's mansion next, right? Also, are you going to be a guardian of Xianqing City? Or stay in Tianzuan Mountain to continue to practice? And in the future be an inspector of Tianzuan? Chen Daoxian knew that Xianqing guarding and inspecting Tianzuan in Ranlingxi's mouth was like the difference between Wuha Tianzuan and Yini Tianzuan. Generally, Tianzuan is naturally not qualified to be a patrol Tianzuan, because if you want to be a patrol Tianzuan, the most basic thing is that your strength must reach the level of an ordinary true immortal. With the cultivation base of Tianzuan, how can ordinary Tianzuan do it? Even if the human race has the high-grade fairy artifacts left by the ancient real fairy, it is difficult for a few Tianzuan to do it. However, this does not include Chen Daoxian, because with the experience of the human race, the heavenly venerate, who can survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row, the future strength is comparable to the true immortal is a sure thing. In fact, the heavenly venerate who can survive 2 thunder tribulations in a row will have the opportunity to become a patrol heavenly venerate in the future. You must know that the ancient sword Tianzuan, who is currently the strongest in the human race, only survived 3 thunder tribulations in a row. Ranlingxi's question stopped Chen Daoxian. Judging from Chen Daoxuan's wishes, he definitely wanted to be an inspector of Tianzuan. The fairy town guardian sounds very tall, but in fact being a fairy town guardian is very boring. For example, Wuha Tianzuan, for convenience, is guarding Yaoguang City all year round. If he wants to accompany his wife and children on weekdays, he can only send mana incarnations. As for the deity, he must sit in Yaoguang City all the time. The immortal cities on the battlefield outside the territory are not so much defensive immortal cities, but more like the cages of each human race. But for the stability of the human race, the heavenly venerates guarded these cages day and night, never retreating. Based on this alone, Chen Daoxian was in awe of the heavenly venerates of Liangjiyuan. Compared with the low-level monks in Fengyan realm, these tribulation-transcending monks of the human race are worthy of the name of heavenly venerate. Facing Ranlingxi's expectant gaze, Chen Daoxian shook his head and said, I haven't thought about it yet. It's okay. It's not urgent, you can think about it slowly. And you can ask my father, he has experience. Ranlingxi said with a smile. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian and Luoli looked at each other and laughed. For several days, the hustle and bustle of Tianzuan Mountain gradually ceased. Inner world. In an unknown heavenly venerate world, a monk in a white robe is sitting in a palace in this world, talking to a dark shadow. Why are you calling me now? Dark Shadow's tone was flat. Who knows that this human race Tianzuan wearing a white Taoist robe saw the shadow, and knelt down to the other side and said, Emperor, I want to report something. After a while the shadow spit out a word. Speak. Yes. The heavenly venerate wearing a white robe raised his head and said word by word. The human race has given birth to a heavenly venerate who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Heavenly venerable who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. He Ying's voice couldn't help raising a level, then calmed down again, and said indifferently, Oh, is it another emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate? Only this time, can he get this honorable title again? Emperor, calm down. Bai Pao Tianzuan knelt down. This son is only a 5 robbery Tianzuan now. How can he be compared with an emperor? What do you know? The black figure was furious. After a long while, the black figure said faintly, "The emperor this time. I won't give you any chance again." Seeing the appearance of the emperor, Tianzuan Baipao buried his head even lower. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website WAP. Chapter 508. Guangyuan Realm. On Tianzuan Mountain, a figure quickly flew towards the mountainside from the top of the mountain. Soon, the figure stopped in front of a Tianzuan mansion on the mountainside. Ran Lingxi glanced at the Tianzuan mansion, which covers a small area, and quickly walked inside. Stepping into Tianzuan mansion, the scene in front of me suddenly changed. Like other Tianzuan mansions on Tianzuan Mountain, the newly built Tianzuan mansion by Chen Daoxian also contains a complete cave inside. Not only that, compared with other newly promoted heavenly venerates, Chen Daoxuan's cave in this heavenly venerate mansion was made by Jie Yuanzhu, who belonged to the Jinping general of the demon court. In terms of the area of the cave, it is no less than Wuha Tianzuan mansion. Wow! Approaching Chen Daoxuan's Tianzuan mansion, Ran Lingxi suddenly exclaimed. As the owner of Tianzuan mansion, Chen Daoxian naturally learned of Ran Lingxi's arrival at the first time. During the period of breaking through to the supreme heavenly venerate, Chen Daoxian was extremely busy. Build Tianzuan mansion, lead the Cheng clan of Fengyun realm to run Xianhuang realm and Tianzuan mansion, receive all Tianzuan who come to congratulate, etc. During this period of time, the complicated things that followed made Chen Daoxian feel more tired than cultivation. Speaking of which, he has indeed been the boss for too long. Since the Chen family has been on the right track, he has been completely taken care of by Chen Daolian. As for the Northern Immortal League, concubine Chen Xue helps him handle various affairs. It was because someone helped him with his miscellaneous matters that Chen Daoxian could focus more on his cultivation. But during this period, Fei Chen Xue was not around, and Chen Daolian knew nothing about the Guangyuan realm. Chen Daoxian could only let her and Luo Li arrange for the Chen clan to run the Xianhuang realm. As for the affairs on the side of Tianzuan mansion, Chen Daoxian was handling it all by himself. Especially the construction of Tianzuan mansion and the reception of Tianzuan from all sides who came to congratulate. Of course, busy is busy, and Chen Daoxian has indeed been reluctant to receive gifts during this time. Heavenly venerates from all sides congratulated him on 5 consecutive thunder tribulations, and naturally he would not come empty-handed. In fact, Chen Daoxian had received more than 10 pieces of the light immortal artifact during this period of time, and one of them was a mid-grade immortal artifact, which was higher than the heaven-shaking axe in his hand. This fairy weapon is called the Xuanwu Shield, which is an ancient fairy weapon with a tortoise-shell-like appearance. I heard that this fairy artifact was made from the tortoise shell of a real fairy, after beheading a real fairy monster in the ancient times, during the war between humans and monsters. As for why the name of Xuanwu was named, of course, it was just for the sake of listening. The real Xuanwu is not something that the human race of Fengyun realm can provoke. Ran Lingxi was amazed when Chen Daoxian suddenly appeared in front of her, which shocked her. Ah, why are you so elusive? Ran Lingxi patted her chest in shock. Seeing that she was still so carefree, Chen Daoxian shook his head and said without defending, "Tell me, why did you come to see me? I've been very busy these days, and I don't have time to hang out with you." When Ran Lingxi heard this, she immediately shook her little head. "I didn't come to play with you. It was my father looking for you." 5 Rivers Tianzuan. Chen Daoxian became serious, and he vaguely guessed why Wuha Tianzuan was looking for him. The top of Tianzuan Mountain, Wuha Tianzuan Mansion. Chen Daoxian and Luo Li entered the gate of Wuha Tianzuan Mansion together. The two were familiar with the road, and soon arrived in front of Wuha Tianzuan's cave. Immediately, a figure appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. It was Wuha Tianzuan. 5 Rivers Tianzuan. Chen Daoxian saluted respectfully, Although it has been corrected many times, Chen Daoxian will still respectfully salute every time he sees Wuhe Tianzuan. Over time, the Five Rivers Tianzuan will just let it go. Although Wuhe Tianzuan said nothing, he was very satisfied with Chen Daoxuan's way of respecting his predecessors. Daoxian, don't be too polite. Wuhe Tianzuan stepped forward and helped Chen Daoxian, and said, I called you over this time, you should guess why? Chen Daoxian nodded and said, Is it because of the Tianzuan meeting? Exactly. Wuhe Tianzuan nodded. It took 3 years for Gu Jian and his parties to adjust for so long, and finally there is a chance to hold a Tianzuan meeting in Tianzuan City. Hearing this, Chen Daoxian knew that Gu Jian Tianzuan must have paid a lot for his own business in the past 3 years. There is no way. The Terran Heavenly Venerate is distributed in the entire outer battlefield, and the extraterritorial battlefield is extremely vast, and it takes a long time to inform the group of Heavenly Venerates in the extraterritorial battlefield. As for the communication talisman, it has no effect in the extraterritorial battlefield. In the extraterritorial battlefield, there are 2 fastest ways. The first is world teleportation. The second is to take the light boat between the major immortal cities. Although the speed of world teleportation is the fastest, it is impossible for any Tianzuan to anchor so many Xiantian coordinates. For every cultivator above the 5th floor of the world coordinates are limited. For example, Chen Daoxuan's Xianhuang realm, whose world scope has expanded to nearly 400,000 miles in diameter, can only anchor 3 world coordinates at the same time. The Tianzuan realm of other Tianzuan may have a larger scope and more world coordinates anchored, but it is not much more than the Xianhuang realm. Therefore, it is difficult to rely on the world transmission of Tianzuan realm to quickly deliver messages. In general, world teleportation combined with light boats is the most efficient way of communication. One can imagine how much Gujian Tianzuan has put in for him in the past 3 years. Wuhe Tianzuan said, For you, Gu Jian has made a lot of effort. You must remember his kindness. Chen Daoxian nodded quickly. Yes, Tianzuan. Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and said, let's go to Tianzuan City together. Go to Tianzuan City? Before Chen Daoxian could answer, Ran Lingxi became excited. Daddy Chen Daoxian, take me with you. Seeing Ran Lingxi clamoring to go, Wuhe Tianzuan spoiled. Since you want to go so much, call your mother and sister. This time let's go together. Ran Lingxi's eyes lit up when she heard this, and she immediately ran away without caring about anything. This child. Watching Ran Lingxi's passing away, Wuhe Tianzuan smiled and shook his head. Chen Daoxian said with a smile, Fairy Lingxi has a straightforward personality, but I am very envious of you, Tianzuan. With no one left or right, Wuhe Tianzuan said with a slight joke, Since you are so envious, you and your 2 Dao companions have not given birth to many more children. If you think that it is difficult for me to give birth to offspring, I can help you to give me a few children. A friend asked for some elixir. Chen Daoxian didn't expect Wuhe Tianzuan to give birth to him, and was stunned for a while. Wuhe Tianzuan sighed. Don't think I'm joking with you. The direct descendants of Tianzuan have a high probability of having excellent cultivation geniuses. The descendants of the Heavenly Venerate you saw in Tianzuan Mountain are all very poor in talent. Chen Daoxian, you are the most talented cultivator I have ever seen. Even if the offspring you give birth to are less talented than you, there is a great possibility that they will become Heavenly Venerate. Given the situation of my human race, do you still think that giving birth to a child is your personal matter? These words made Chen Daoxian unable to utter a single rebuttal. In fact, it is not the first time that Chen Daoxian has been spawned. Every time he returns to Chen's house, as long as he meets Uncle 13, he will be spawned by him. Therefore, Chen Daoxian avoided Chen Xianhe several times in the Hui family, for fear that the other party would urge him to give birth to a child. Chen Daoxian is not against having children, but the current environment of the human race is too desperate, and he does not want his children to be born in a desperate environment. Chen Daoxian can go shopping with the world demon alone without hesitation, but he does not want his children to follow this path in the future. If he did this, he would be extremely irresponsible for his unborn child. Seeing that Chen Daoxian did not speak, Wu Hetianzuan did not say more. After all, his relationship with Chen Daoxian was not close enough to interfere with each other's private affairs. Wu Hetianzuan said these words, but he didn't want Chen Daoxuan's amazing talent to be buried. Just like the emperor slaughtered Tianzuan, he did not leave any descendants. Between the two talking, the three escaped lights flew towards the two of them. It was Wu Hetianzuan's Taoist companion and his pair of daughters. Seeing the three, Wu Hetianzuan's eyes softened. He nodded to the crowd. Let's go. This time, Wu Hetianzuan directly used world teleportation to move everyone from Wu Hetianzuan Mansion to Tianzuan City. Obviously, the Tianzuan realm of Wu Hetianzuan has the coordinates of Tianzuan City. In fact, most Tianzuan will anchor Tianzuan City as world coordinates. Because Tianzuan City is the core of the giant formation under the ancient real immortals. Its importance is not even under the Guangyuan realm, and it is also known as the last portal of the human race. After crossing Tianzuan City, it is the inner domain world, and after passing through the inner domain world, it enters the Phoenix Meteor realm. It can be said that as long as the world monster breaks through Tianzuan City, it will be a smooth river, and the human race will no longer have any defensive power. Whether it is Guangyuan realm or other heavenly venerate realms, they do not have any ability to resist the true immortal level demons. Of course, as the last portal of the human race, the defense of Tianzuan City is also extremely powerful. If it is said that the main cities of other war zones in the extraterritorial battlefield, under the guard of the human race, can erupt with the combat power comparable to a powerful true immortal, and can only return with a feather, this does not mean that the human race can sit back and relax when they own Tianzuan City. In fact, the reason why Tianzuan City can burst out such a powerful force is all based on the giant formation arranged by the ancient real immortals. And the composition of this giant formation is the large and small immortal cities in the entire extraterritorial battlefield. As long as the world monsters pull out all these immortal cities, the Tianzuan City of the human race will be like a tiger whose claws have been pulled out, and there will be no more threats. This is also the reason why the human race established the inspection system of Tianzuan. The immortal city on the battlefield outside the territory must not be lost. Every time an immortal city is lost, the human race's defensive formation loses part of its power. Since the end of the ancient times, for 470,000 years, the human race has only completely mastered all the fairy cities in the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. Before or after the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, the human race never mastered all immortal cities. Especially now, a considerable part of the human race has fallen into the hands of the world demon. On the eve of the last Yaoguang City battle, an acropolis near Yaoguang City fell into the hands of the world demon. The only thing that is fortunate is that after the world monster captured the human race immortal city, it could not exert the power of the immortal city. Otherwise the situation of the human race would be even more desperate. Wow, Tianzuan City is so majestic. As soon as Ran Lingxi came to Tianzuan City, all the buildings in the city attracted all her attention. Not only her, but even Chen Daoxian, who came here for the first time, was stunned for a moment after seeing the scene of Tianzuan City. This is the most majestic fairy city he has ever seen. No one. What is even more terrifying is that this immortal city is actually a super large immortal artifact. It is hard for Chen Daoxian to imagine what price the true immortals of the ancient human race paid for refining these immortal cities. However, Chen Daoxian was relieved when he thought that immortal Guangyuan had even abandoned the Dao fruit of longevity for the sake of the continuation of the human race. No matter how much you pay, how can you compare to immortal venerable Guangyuan? Sighing slightly, Chen Daoxian looked at Wu Hetianzuan. Wu Hetianzuan nodded knowingly and said to his wife and children, "You guys go shopping in the city first. Daoxian and I still have important things to do." Hearing this, the Taoist companion Wu Hetianzuan said warmly, "You all go to work, don't worry about us." Chen Daoxian and Wu Hetianzuan nodded, and then the two figures disappeared in front of the three in an instant. Tianzuan City, In a hidden cave, a majestic palace, like a terrifying beast, crawls on the ground. Around the palace, there are various formation restrictions, and what is even more terrifying is that these formation restrictions are all connected to Tianzuan City. At this moment, even if a true immortal came to break in, he would be instantly banned by these formations and turned into fly ash. Chen Daoxian followed Wuha Tianzuan, passed all the formation restrictions, and entered this giant palace. Entering the palace, Chen Daoxian saw rows of well-defined seats of different sizes. The seats at the top were the most massive. These seats were jet black, made of unknown metal, and had a width of 12 feet. Further down, the width of the seat is 9 zhang, 6 zhang, 30 zhang, and the largest number is 1 zhang. Wuha Tianzuan explained. The 12 zhang seat is prepared for the inspection of Tianzuan, and the 9 zhang seat below is prepared for the high-level Tianzuan. Chen Daoxian nodded. The status of a monk in the human race is also determined by the level of strength. In the human race, the status of inspecting Tianzuan is the highest. Chen Daoxian noticed that there are only 27 seats in the entire human race. That is to say, the human race has only 27 heavenly venerates with true immortal combat power. This number is pitifully small compared to the demons in the real demon world. But this is the real heritage of the human race. If it weren't for this, the top human race would not be so desperate. Even in the era of slaughtering heavenly venerate, there were no more than 50 inspectors of the human race. It is very difficult to be a true immortal in the cultivation base of Tianzuan. Either the cultivator has mastered an incredible secret technique, or he has a powerful immortal weapon. In short, only if the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate has a very outstanding achievement, it is possible to have the combat power of a true immortal in the heavenly venerate cultivation base. The higher the level of battle, the more difficult it is to cultivate. From this point of view, it is already commendable that the human race can give birth to 27 inspectors. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 509. Soon, figures appeared on the seats in the palace. Chen Daoxian felt a little, and found that most of the figures that appeared were incarnations of mana. Also, most of the heavenly venerates are sitting in the major immortal cities on the battlefield outside the territory, and their true bodies cannot return. If they want to participate in the heavenly venerate meeting, they can only use their magic power to incarnate. Chen Daoxian swept his consciousness and quickly found his own seat. He moved and sat down on a seat that was 6 feet wide. He is the heavenly venerate of the 5 tribulations, and these cultivations are among the heavenly venerates of the human race, belonging to the middle and upper reaches. After all, the high-level celestial beings are a minority, and the most numerous among the human race celestial beings are the low-level celestial beings who have not survived 3 thunder tribulations. As soon as Chen Daoxian took his seat, his eyes fixed on the 27 thrones that symbolized the highest status in the palace. Soon, the inspectors of the human race took their seats one by one. The one in the center is naturally the ancient sword heavenly venerate, who is known as the first heavenly venerate of the human race. Later, Chen Daoxian also saw the old acquaintance Silver Wing heavenly venerate. What surprised him the most was the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion is actually a patrol Tianzuan with combat power comparable to a true immortal. Chen Daoxian was surprised. As for the other human race inspectors, Chen Daoxian didn't know any of them. There is no way. He has just crossed the tribulation, even if he has crossed 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and is famous in the circle of the human race. But there will be no inspection Tianzuan to come to congratulate him. At least the current Chen Daoxian does not have this qualification. He just equalized the record of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, and he is not a new Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. With all the seats in the palace, the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan resounded in the palace like a big bell. It's rare that our human race heavenly venerates can gather together. Why did I ask everyone to come here today? And everyone must know the reason. Gu Jian Tianzuan paused. 2 things, a happy event and a bad event. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion sighed. Is there anything worse now? Gu Jian Tianzuan glanced at him, and then his voice became cold. Of course there is. Everyone knows that the crisis that my human race is facing now, and at this critical moment, there are still some people who are hollowing out the defense line that my human race has set up in the extraterritorial battlefield. Who? Who is so bold? Hearing this, a burly and hot-tempered high-ranking heavenly venerate stood up. I gave birth to him. Heavenly exalted fire, let go of his anger. Gujian Tianzuan waved his hand. Everyone knows that since most of the resources of the Phoenix Meteor Realm are occupied by the monks in the inner domain, the recruiting order for the outer battlefield is only aimed at the Yuanshan Daojun of the Phoenix Meteor Realm. But not long ago, I discovered that there were actually people who dared to blatantly cover up the Yuanshan Daojun of Fengyan Realm and avoid the summons of Tianzuan City. Boom! This sentence immediately caused an uproar in the entire palace. Who is it? Who dares to be so bold? The summoning order from the Phoenix Meteor Realm is only aimed at Yuanshan Daojun, and they are still evading the recruiting. It's too bold. Are they not willing to pay for the human race at all? Who shielded them? As far as I know, the recruitment is personally issued by Tianzuan City. Unless there is a high-level Tianzuan doing the tricks, how can other people help the Daojun of Fengyan Realm to escape the recruitment? In the palace, doubts about the high-ranking heavenly venerate of the human race began to appear. Gu Jian Tianzuan saw that the heat was enough, waved his hand, and two figures were released from his sleeves. It was Xiao Yuhua and He Yinyan. Although the two were under the control of the ban, their mouths were not sealed. The first time He Yinyan was released, he looked towards the seating area of the high-level heavenly venerate. When he saw a familiar figure, he was overjoyed. Father, save me! Save me! When Jiyu Tianzuan saw He Yinyan, who was captured by the ancient sword Tianzuan, his face sank immediately. At this moment he was very angry. It is not that Tianzuan Jiyu suspected that Gujian Tianzuan had made a mistake and wronged his son. What made him angry was that Gujian Tianzuan didn't tell him anything in advance. Until now, he didn't know that it was his son who shielded the Yuanshan Daojun of Fengyan Realm and helped them escape from military service. For his son with poor talent, Jiyu Tianzuan does not have much affection. All along, he has kept it in Tianzuan Mountain. Unexpectedly, the other party actually stabbed him in such a big basket this time, making him lose face in front of all the celestial venerables. What made him even more embarrassed was that this was still begging him for help. Shut up, Nizi! Jiyu Tianzuan was burning with anger. At this moment a mocking voice came. Who am I to be so daring? It turns out to be your son, brother Jiyu, as expected. If there is a father, there must be a son. The speaker is the previous heavenly venerate Fire. Yuehua, are you looking for death? Heavenly venerate Jiyu said in a cold voice. Enough, Gujian Tianzuan shouted. You two have so much strength, why don't you kill some monsters on the battlefield outside the territory? Gujian Tianzuan, as the first Tianzuan of the human race, is much stronger than the ordinary 8th tribulation Tianzuan, such as Juyu and Yunhua, and the two did not dare to refute his reprimand. 9 domains exist. Jiyu lowered his head slightly. Gu Jian Tianzuan continued. He Yinyan is your son. He has helped Fenjianji Wuji Xianmen evade the recruitment of Tianzuan City to make huge profits. The evidence is conclusive. What should you do? Kill. Jiyu Tianzan's eyes turned cold, and He Yinyan, who was restrained and controlled in midair, was still begging for mercy, but his body was beaten into nothingness by Jiyu Tianzan's palm. God is dead. A mere mana incarnation can actually kill a primordial spirit Taoist with one palm. Below, Chen Daoxuan's eyes were slightly condensed when he looked at Jiyu Tianzuan. The strength of this Jiyu Tianzuan was probably very close to the level of a true immortal. What is even more frightening is the ruthlessness of this 9 regions, heavenly venerate. You know, He Yinyan was his own flesh and blood, but he was killed by the 9 regions heavenly venerate without blinking an eye. Seeing this scene, Tianzuan Yunhua, who was originally going to choke with him, opened his mouth, but in the end he just bowed his hands to Tianzuan Juyu without saying anything. The other party has achieved this level. What else can he say? Can't Juyu Tianzuan collude with He Yinyan just to covet the money of Wuji Xianmen? I am afraid that any cultivator in the palace will not believe this kind of words. And he is the first one who does not believe it. As a celestial venerable with the same cultivation base as the 9 regions heavenly venerate, Yunhua knows better than anyone what the 9 regions celestial venerable really wants. For the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, their biggest dream is naturally to survive the 9th thunder tribulation and break through to the realm of the Mahayana true immortal. But the chances of this dream coming true are almost nil. In addition, for the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, the most tempting thing is to go further and reach the level of human race inspection, heavenly venerate. This idea is plausible. Whether it is with the help of top-grade high-grade fairy tools, or with the help of fairy magic secret methods, there is always the possibility of realization. In fact, both Meteor Fire and Juyu are stuck on this last step. Once the 2 of them can take this step, the Terran will add 2 more inspectors. For this kind of existence, how does the mere promise immortal sect buy it? Not to mention bribing. That is, the entire Wuji Xianmen was packaged and placed in front of his Juyu Tianzuan, and he didn't even take a look at it. The 2 are not the same level at all. Only his son, who is not very talented and incompetent, would do such a thing that made the soldiers on the front line angry for this little money. Beside He Yinyan, Xiao Yuhua was shocked when he saw that He Yinyan was slapped into nothingness by the 9 regions heavenly venerate. He knew very well that He Yinyan was the son of the 9 regions heavenly venerate. Kill your own son. What does he count? At this moment, he knew that he might be doomed this time. Sure enough, Gujian Tianzuan said. Juyu, you can kill your relatives righteously, I admire very much. As he spoke, he changed his words. Everyone, now that the bribe recipient is dead, what should the bribe giver do? Kill, kill, kill. For a time, the screams of killing in the palace shook the sky. These people are fighting the front line, and there are still people in the back who dare to do such a cowardly thing. If this is not killed, once it spreads, the morale of the front line will be destroyed, and the human race will be in danger. It is good, Gujian Tianzuan nodded. In that case, pass on my decree order. Wow! In the palace, all the monks sat upright. Order! Immediately, everyone involved in the Wuji immortal sect will be killed, and the Wuji immortal sect will be dissolved. With the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan fell. In the middle of the palace, a golden decree appeared in the sky, and a line of words was written. In the end, a seal flew out from the hands of the ancient sword Tianzuan, and was placed on top of the decree. Chen Daoxian looked at this decree, and he knew that Wuji Xianmen was completely finished. Originally, he planned to personally find an opportunity to demolish the Wuji Immortal Gate, after breaking through the cultivation base of Tianzuan. Now that he thinks about it, he probably doesn't have to bother. As for the Sita family, the vassal family of Wuji Xianmen, Chen Daoxian was not worried at all. Compared with Wuji Xianmen, the Sita family has only one world realm 5th layer Taoist. Don't say that Chen Daoxian doesn't take this kind of opponent into his eyes. Even if he doesn't take the initiative, whether the opponent can resist the danger of the destruction of Wuji Xianmen is 2 things. You must know that Wuji Xianmen can occupy the most fertile land in Zhengzhou. In the past, when Wuji Xianmen was there, the Situ family naturally had to experience the wind and the rain. Now that the Wuji immortal sect has been destroyed, the Situ family has such a huge interest, and there is no backing, there is no guarantee that other forces will not take advantage of the fire. With the strength of the Situ family, it may not be able to withstand this catastrophe. Taking 10,000 steps back, even if the Situ family survived this disaster, wouldn't Chen Daoxian still be there? With Chen Daoxuan's current strength, crushing the Situ family is not as simple as crushing an ant. After the decree was written, Gujian Tianzuan waved his hand. Xiao Yuhua, who was on the 3rd floor of the world realm, turned into nothingness and died. So far, the case of He Yinyan accepting bribes has come to an end. After dealing with this matter, the chill on Gujian Tianzuan's face also dissipated. He smiled. Okay, the bad things are over, let's talk about the good things now. Seeing Gu Jian Tianzuan like this, everyone's expressions all relaxed. After all, no one does not want to hear good news. Everyone sits on the front line all year round, and the nerves are already tense enough. If you hear bad news, will you still be alive? This is also the reason why everyone was so angry when they heard the He Yinyan case. 3 years ago, my human race gave birth to a peerless genius. He actually survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations when he broke through the tribulation period, and directly tied the record of 200,000 years maintained by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. What? 5 lightning tribulations in a row? How is it possible? When we cross the calamity, we all pass through one thunder calamity. How can anyone survive 5 thunder tribulations in a row? Inhuman. It's right that my human race is immortal. In the palace, some people were amazed, some people were crying on their backs, all kinds of emotions and so on. But in general, everyone is excited that the human race has given birth to a peerless genius who has survived 5 consecutive thunder tribulations. Because everyone knows that the era of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was the most stable and harmonious era for the human race. No cultivator wants to live in trembling all day long. Even Tianzuan. Doesn't Wuxia Tianzuan really want to accompany his wife and children? The other heavenly venerates have a lot of descendants and disciples. Do they just want to sit in the immortal city outside the realm all day and have nothing to return to the inner realm? Nobody wants this. Although the birth of an Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate will not change the weak situation of the human race. But at least with this existence, the human race can protect itself. Even if the demon court unifies the real demon world, it is helpless in the face of the human race with the existence of the Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate. This is the deterrent force that a strong man who suppresses ethnic movements can bring. Although Gu Jian Tianzuan is known as the first Tianzuan of the human race in the current era, he is far from such a deterrent. Not to mention other things one-on-one, he is not the opponent of the current demon court emperor at all. Not to mention that there are still many old antiques in the holy ancient demon realm, whose strength is not under the demon court emperor. If the human race had the giant formations and immortal cities left by the ancient real immortals, they would have been slaughtered by the world demons long ago. A long time. The chatter in the palace slowly stopped. Seeing that everyone's emotions were calmed down, Gu Jian Tianzuan continued. This kind of arrogance, my human race should try my best to cultivate it. This is also the biggest purpose of my meeting of Tianzuan this time. Hearing this, everyone nodded. Indeed, such a strong aptitude, coupled with the cultivation of the human race, no matter how bad it is, the future achievements will also be above the ancient sword Tianzuan. If the other party can really compete with the Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate in the future, then the human race will turn over. Therefore, I propose to open the immortal tomb and let him accept the inheritance left by the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. The inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan? When did Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan leave the inheritance? Yeah, didn't Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan leave no inheritance? At this moment, everyone asked questions. The inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has always been a thorn in the hearts of the human race. The other party can be so powerful in the cultivation base of Tianzuan. In the eyes of everyone, it is simply an incredible thing. But what makes it even more difficult for everyone to accept is that there is no inheritance left until death. Now, Gu Jian Tianzuan actually told them that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan actually left a legacy, which makes everyone not angry. Everyone listen to me, Gu Jian Tianzuan said loudly. It is true that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan did not leave any inheritance, but he left a sentence before his death. In the future, there are those who want to follow my path, and my corpse will be impressive. Has Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan said this? I don't know. The only records recorded in the Zongmen's books are that Tianzuan Killing Di has not left any specific inheritance, but what the other party said before he sat down is not recorded in the books. Looking at a corpse, what can you see by looking at a corpse? All the gods shook their heads. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 510. The discussion stopped, and needles could be heard in the huge palace. Half an hour. On the inspection of the Tianzuan seat, a Tianzuan wearing a white robe said, "It is rare for the human race to give birth to a peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, and this seat agrees to open the immortal tomb." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian looked at this strange heavenly venerate quite unexpectedly. The Tianzuan wearing a white Taoist robe felt Chen Daoxuan's gaze, and nodded and smiled at him. "This is Lingyu Tianzuan. Lingyu Tianzuan is the leader of the heavenly sect." Just when Chen Daoxian was puzzled, Wuha Tianzan's voice appeared in his sea of consciousness. Heavenly sect. Chen Daoxuan's mind immediately appeared in this top force named after the Tian sect. In comparison, the Jiang family, which was once unattainable in Chen Daoxuan's eyes, was not worth mentioning when compared with Zhangtian sect and Tian sect. Because the strongest ancestor of the Jiang family was sitting 3 seats away from Chen Daoxian. During the Tianzuan meeting, the strongest contemporary Jiang family saw Chen Daoxian looking at him and nodded friendly to him. Nowadays, among the people who are well informed, who does not know that Chen Daoxian is the peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row? The strongest heavenly venerate of the Jiang family is only a heavenly venerate of 6 tribulations. Although the other party has gone through 1 more thunder calamity than Chen Daoxian, the potential of the 2 sides is 108,000 miles away. How dare the Jiang family neglect this existence, who is destined to stand at the peak of the entire human race in the future? If it wasn't for Chen Daoxian, who had been closing the door to thank guests for the past few years, after completing the thunder tribulation, Chen Daoxian would only meet the other party, unless the heavenly venerate with a great background visited him. A family like the Jiang family, which is not ranked among all the top forces, is very self-aware and does not move up, because the Jiang family knew that even if they came to visit Chen Daoxian, they would definitely not be able to see this arrogant human race, so they simply didn't make fun of themselves. With Lingyu Tianzuan speaking, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said, "I also agree to open the immortal tomb." Originally, Lingyu Tianzuan agreed to open the fairy tomb, and everyone didn't feel anything. But when they heard that even the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion agreed to open the fairy tomb, everyone's complexion finally changed. Even Chuanbao Pavilion has agreed to open the immortal tomb. It seems that the top heavenly venerates of my human race are indeed very optimistic about this human race heavenly chosen. Nonsense. A peerless genius who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row, no matter how bad the future is, he is no worse than inspecting the heavenly Lord. If the other party can really get the inheritance of the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate, it will be amazing. Inside the palace, everyone whispered, "I also agreed to open the fairy tomb." Heavenly venerate Juyu said coldly. Seeing that Tianzuan Juyu agreed to open the immortal tomb, Tianzuan Yunhua immediately said, "This seat also agrees." Humph! Juyu Tianzuan snorted coldly, unwilling to pay attention to him. "I also agreed to open the fairy tomb." This is the voice of Wuha Tianzuan. With the opening of many inspectors and high-ranking gods, gradually, there were more and more voices in the palace agreeing to open the immortal tomb. In the end, the voices all joined together. That is to agree to open the fairy tomb. Seeing this scene, Chen Daoxian couldn't help being touched. The immortal tomb is the cemetery where the monks who died in war, or those who had great military exploits, sat down. You must know that human monks die in battles outside the territory, and it is generally difficult to find bodies. Because the moment the monks were killed by the world monsters, most of them were swallowed by the world monsters. As for the monks who had great military exploits and died, there were very few monks in the history of the human race. As a certain Terran heavenly venerate said, the ultimate fate of the Terran strong is to die on the battlefield outside the territory. Speaking of which, there are very few people who can live to the limit of lifespan. When a cultivator reaches the transcending tribulation stage, every time he passes through a thunder calamity, he can gain an extra 10,000 years of lifespan. It is reasonable to say that the heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations has a full 90,000 years of lifespan. But since the end of the ancient times, in the history of the human race, there is only one person who can live to 90,000 years of lifespan. Good. Looking at the rising and falling voices in the palace, Gu Jiantianzuan nodded. Then open the fairy tomb. Say it. In the void of the palace, another golden decree appeared. After the decree was condensed, the golden seal flew out from the hands of the ancient sword Tianzuan and was printed on the decree. So far, the decree is complete. After the two things were said, in the palace, one after another mana incarnation dissipated directly, leaving only a few real bodies of Tianzuan. Among them, there was the Zhang Tianjiao sect, who was the first to speak out in support of Chen Daoxian. Lingyu Tianzuan nodded kindly to Chen Daoxian, and then disappeared into the palace. With the disappearance of one after another, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly appeared in front of Chen Daoxian. Follow me. After the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion left such a sentence, he waved his sleeves and took Chen Daoxian away from the human race discussion palace. Tianzuan City, the main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion. Different from what Chen Daoxian imagined, the main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion is not in Guangyuan realm, nor is it in the Tianzuan realm of the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion. It is just set up in Tianzuan City. This also means that, in the eyes of the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion, Tianzuan City is the safest place for the human race. If Tianzuan City is broken, there will only be a countdown to the destruction of the human race. Along the way, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion said nothing. Chen Daoxian didn't ask any questions. The first humanoid refiner had promised him a great gift, and he also promised him to teach him how to refine immortal weapons. But all these promises were not fulfilled. Chen Daoxian wanted to come, this time. Did this person come to fulfill his promise? I didn't expect that Gu Jian actually thought the same as I thought. Walking into the Chuanbao Pavilion, it took a long time for the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion to say such a sentence. The main pavilion of the Chuanbao Pavilion is the same as the major sub-pavilions, and its interior is also a cave world. The only difference from other sub-pavilions is that this cave world seems to be huge and somewhat unexpected by Chen Daoxian. Do you think it's big? The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion turned his head and looked at Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian nodded. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion smiled and said, "It was created by the Jia Yuanzhu left over by a true immortal level world demon, who was beheaded by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan." True immortal level Jiuanzu, Chen Daoxian exclaimed. This is the second true fairyland that Chen Daoxian has ever seen. Unlike the true immortal origin realm he first saw in the true demon realm, the true immortal origin realm was obviously left over from the ancient times. However, the real immortal source realm in front of him was left by the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, who killed the world demon, which is undoubtedly much closer in time. What's more, it was a celestial venerable who killed the true immortal level world demon. It is rumored that the inspection Tianzuan can match the true immortals, and the ancient sword Tianzuan has the combat power to kill the real immortal level world demon. But these are all rumors of the human race. The inspection Tianzuan can match the true immortal level Tianzuan. Chen Daoxian has witnessed it with his own eyes, and it is true. But Gu Jian Tianzuan can kill the real immortal world monster. He has never seen it. Besides, there is a huge gap between the true immortal level world demons. Can the old antiques of the ancient demon domain and the real immortal level demons who have just broken through have the same level of strength? Obviously not. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion asked, "Do you know who created Chuanbao Pavilion?" Hearing this, Chen Daoxian had a faint guess in his heart, and he tried to reply. Could it be that this pavilion was created by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan? Exactly, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion nodded. Chuanbao Pavilion, Chuanbao Pavilion. For so many years, the meaning of our Chuanbao Pavilion's existence is for it. Talking, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion waved his hand. I saw the whole cave began to shake violently. You must know that as a real fairy-level Jiuanzu, the world of the cave has shrunk a little compared with the original Realxianyuan, but compared to Chen Daoxuan's Xianhuang realm, I don't know how many times larger. Such a cave world shakes, one can imagine how terrifying it is. But Chen Daoxian and the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion are extraordinary people, let alone a cave world shaking. Even if this cave world explodes in front of him, it won't hurt them both. Coming, Chen Daoxian said silently. In his consciousness perception, deep in the core of this cave world, there is a piece of debris that is tumbling and rushing out of the formation deep in the core. Boom! With a loud bang, a white light rushed out from the depths of the ground. As soon as Bai Guang rushed out, he was about to break through the air. But unfortunately, in this cave world, the formation arranged by the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was left. Immediately, the entire cave world became extremely dim, and the golden crow fragments in the sky also became bleak. Next moment, a chain of chains stretched out from the void, directly binding the white light in place. It was only then that Chen Daoxian could see exactly what this white light was. This is a fragment, Chen Daoxian murmured, his tone full of disbelief. It is the magic weapon used by the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate in the world. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion didn't use the word utensils, but used magic weapons. Chen Daoxian once again looked at the fragment in the void that was entangled by countless chains. It was still difficult for him to imagine that this thing was actually the weapon of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. It's not that Chen Daoxian thinks this treasure is of low rank. In fact, in Chen Daoxuan's consciousness, this treasure is of higher rank than all immortal tools he has ever seen, including his Star Sword Dao map. In other words, the rank of this treasure is higher than that of the top-grade immortal artifact. But here comes the problem. Even if it is very difficult for the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate to use the high-grade immortal artifact, now he can't use the higher-rank immortal artifact for Chen Daoxian. Seemingly seeing Chen Daoxuan's doubts, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion continued to explain. You don't have to worry about not being able to use it. As long as you can get the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, you can definitely use it. The pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion is very determined. But thinking that this is also a disciple of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, Chen Daoxian was relieved. That Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate is so fierce. Maybe it is because of this treasure. Chen Daoxian was thinking that the fragments in the void had a new change. I saw that under the suppression of the entire cave world formation, the violently trembling fragments gradually quieted down and turned into a giant axe, lying across the void. This is... Chen Daoxian felt the breath from the giant axe, and his heart trembled suddenly. This is not a fairy weapon, it is a spiritual treasure. In the Wan Xinghai inheritance space, under the laurel tree, a Taoist man in white was holding a black piece in the forehand, and there was no one on the other side of the chessboard. He was actually playing chess with himself. This step, Mu ran. The white-robed Taoist raised his head abruptly, he stretched out his fingers and pinched it, and a smile appeared on the corner of his mouth. Have you finally got it? Immediately, the white-robed Taoist shook his head, and with a pop, he dropped the black chess piece. Tianzuan City, the main pavilion of Chuanbao Pavilion. Chen Daoxian escaped with a flash of light and flew to the side of the giant axe trapped by the chains. He stretched out his right hand and firmly grasped the giant axe in his palm. Chen Daoxian looked at the giant axe carefully, but did not find any pattern on the giant axe, as if the giant axe was born from nature. Chen Daoxian tried to inject his magical power into the giant axe, but no matter how much mana Chen Daoxian injected, it was like a mud cow entering the sea, and the giant axe did not respond at all. Chen Daoxian was stunned. Even if this giant axe is a spiritual treasure, he will not move at all if he injects mana so desperately. After all, he is now a 5 tribulations heavenly venerate. At this time, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion also flew over and said, if you want to motivate it, you must obtain the inheritance of the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate. What's its name? Chen Daoxian couldn't help asking. I only know that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan calls it the Heaven Opening Axe. Open the axe. Pangu axe. Bullshit. Chen Daoxuan's first reaction was nonsense. And besides, The Panga axe was the first divine weapon to open the sky, and it was broken into 3 innate spiritual treasures as early as after the Pango opened the sky. Wait, the Panga axe is broken. Faintly, Chen Daoxian had some guesses about the origin of this fragment. Could it be that the Panga axe not only shattered into 3 pieces, which also explained why the Emperor killing Heavenly Venerate called it the Opening Heaven Axe? Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan wouldn't give a random name to a lingbao, even though this lingbao is only a low-grade lingbao. As Chen Daoxian held the handle of the giant axe, all the chains in the void shrank back. At this moment, the opening axe was quietly held by Chen Daoxian and no longer struggled. But Chen Daoxian was also unable to drive the other party. Inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate. For the first time, Chen Daoxian became very interested in a Tianzuan inheritance. Originally, in Chen Daoxuan's view, no matter how amazing and brilliant the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan was, his inheritance could not be compared with the inheritance of the upper realm. Chen Daoxian mastered the astral art. I don't know how big the background is. How can he see the inheritance of a Tianzuan? Even if this Heavenly Venerate is called the first Heavenly Venerate of the human race. But this so-called human race's first Heavenly Venerate is only the human race's first Heavenly Venerate in the Fengyan realm. Looking at the heavens and the world, what is the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate? But now Chen Daoxian doesn't think so. If this axe is really a fragment of the Panga axe, then the inheritance of this Emperor slaughter Heavenly Venerate is no trivial matter. If he can use this Panga axe, his inheritance must be unique. Of course, what is unique is what is unique. If it is said that the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan can be compared with the inheritance of Wan Xinghai, Chen Daoxian still does not believe it. After all, the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate cultivation base is there, and the limitation of the Heavenly Venerate cultivation base is destined to not be too high for this inheritance. Unless Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, like Chen Daoxian, also obtained the inheritance of the upper realm. But as far as Chen Daoxian knew, the only known inheritance of the upper realm in Fengyan realm was Wan Xinghai. Moreover, the human race has also sent many human race talents to Wang Xinghai for hundreds of thousands of years to receive inheritance. Among them, there are many like Chen Daoxian who have obtained the astral technique or other supreme inheritance, but without exception, these people are not allowed to enter. Even Chen Daoxian, with the help of the Hongming Enlightenment Classic, exhausted 3 inheritance opportunities before he started to practice astrology. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website WAP. Chapter 511. Inner Domain. A world that exudes loneliness and desolation. Looking from a distance, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but say, "Is this the tomb of the immortal?" The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion nodded. "Go in." Hearing this, Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and flew towards the lonely world in front of him. If you are not mistaken, the world in front of you should be the real fairy world left by an ancient real immortal after the fall. Unlike Guangyuan realm, which is full of vitality, this real immortal realm has been completely deserted. The monks cannot cultivate, and can only become the cemetery of the dead. Just before Chen Daoxian was about to enter the immortal tomb, an old man suddenly appeared in front of him. Chen Daoxian knew that this old man was the tombkeeper, who was explained by the pavilion owner of Chuanbao Pavilion along the way. He took out the decree issued by the ancient sword Tianzuan from the storage ring, and handed it over. The old man took the golden decree, checked it and nodded. "Go in." "Thank you, senior." Chen Daoxian bowed his hands to the opponent. Although he knew that the immortal tomb had a tombkeeper, he did not expect that the old man in front of him was actually a heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations. Just as Chen Daoxian entered the cemetery, the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion suddenly appeared beside the old man. "Isn't this the person you chose, junior brother?" The old man said calmly. "Hey, I don't know if this move will hurt him. He is so talented, maybe there are other hopes. The path of the ancestor is a dead end after all." "Other hope? With the situation of my human race, there is no other hope." The old man glanced at the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. Junior brother, it's not your style to be hesitant. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion sighed. How can such a thing be decisive? Hearing this, the old man looked impatient and waved his hand. This is the matter. I should go to the battlefield outside the territory to fight. I don't know what to guard this broken tomb. And dare not obey the orders of the ancestors? When the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion complained to the old man, he only smiled bitterly. Hearing this, the old man said nothing and disappeared in front of the pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion. Entering the immortal tomb was decidedly different from what Chen Daoxian imagined. Although there are many cemeteries here, in front of most of the tombs, there are only inscriptions and burial mounds, and there are no monks' bodies. Moreover, these tombs are all old, at least tens of thousands, or even hundreds of thousands of years ago. In other words, this immortal tomb has not been opened for a long time. Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think that in the 470,000 years of the human race's struggle against the demons, the human race's blood from the beginning to the exhaustion at the end can be seen from the tomb of this fairy tomb. In the early years, the human race monks also had the idea of building an inscription grave for the war dead Peos. But later, more and more human race monks died, and the human race gradually became numb, and no longer built tombs for these heroic spirits. Despair shrouded every high-level human race. The monuments with no inscriptions and no words silently confided the cruelty of the war between the human race and the demons over the past 470,000 years. Chen Daoxian fully expanded his consciousness and carefully searched this real fairyland. After a long time, he finally found several graves with bodies. There! Chen Daoxian opened his eyes suddenly, and he found the cemetery of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. The figure was blurred for a while, and Chen Daoxian disappeared in place. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan's cemetery is not as luxurious as Chen Daoxian imagined. On the contrary, the other party's cemetery is very simple. There was only one cave that was modeled after the residence in front of him, and the other's body was placed in the cave. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and walked into the cave step by step. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan's cave was not deep, and Chen Daoxian quickly walked to the body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. How can that be? The first time Chen Daoxian saw the opponent's body, he felt extremely shocked. Because the corpse of the other party has gone through 200,000 years, and it is actually lifelike, as if it had just died. You must know that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is not a real immortal. He is just a Tianzuan. Without immortals, the corpse will slowly decay with the passage of time, and this process is only a matter of time. 200,000 years, enough to make the body of any Tianzuan rot. But the body of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan in front of him still maintains a lifelike appearance, which proves that the body of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is much stronger than the ordinary Tianzuan, even not inferior to the Mahayana true immortal. This inference shocked Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian had seen the corpse of a true immortal. You must know that Qin Zhan had a corpse of a true immortal from the upper realm in his hands. After the cultivator broke through to the Mahayana true immortal, the immortal body transformed into the immortal body. At this point, the cultivator's body was completely freed from the shackles of time. But what happened to this Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan? Chen Daoxian couldn't help but fell into contemplation. Look at the corpse. Chen Daoxian muttered the words of the ancient sword Tianzuan. The meaning of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is that his inheritance secret is hidden in his corpse. After thinking for a while, Chen Daoxian knelt down towards the corpse of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, bowed his head respectfully and said, "Senior, I am offended." "Say it." Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged in front of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan's corpse, and his consciousness invaded the other's corpse. The first position he probed was the sea of consciousness of the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate. When Chen Daoxian ventured into the sea of consciousness of the corpse of a true immortal, his cultivation base was still very weak, and his spiritual consciousness was also very weak. If it wasn't for the Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic, he might have been lost in the sea of consciousness of the true immortal. But now it's different. Chen Daoxuan's consciousness is already many times stronger than in the past, and now it is effortless to investigate the sea of consciousness of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. But the results surprised Chen Daoxian. This, whereas the sea of consciousness of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate. Chen Daoxian was stunned. He found that the sea of consciousness of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan actually disappeared, or that the other party did not have the sea of consciousness at all. However, how is this possible? How could the cultivator not have a sea of consciousness? Seemingly thinking of something, Chen Daoxian couldn't wait to check the other party's dantian again. The result was exactly as he guessed, and the other party was not angry. There is no sea of consciousness, no sea of qi. This is still a monk. This is still a cultivator? Taking a deep breath, Chen Daoxian began to carefully investigate the body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. This time, he finally found the difference between the other's body and his own. His physical body is not only pure flesh and blood, but also contains changes in divine soul and mana, which makes his physical body into a very special state. Chen Daoxian said silently. He didn't know how to describe the change. Cultivators cultivate immortals, and what they cultivate is mana, spirit, and flesh. But Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has completely mixed the three together, regardless of each other. No wonder, they all said that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has taken a different path from all monks. Now, a serious problem is in front of Chen Daoxian. Does he want to go this route? At this moment, Chen Daoxuan's heart was beating violently, and for the first time he felt a little diffuse. When people face a major choice, they will have this kind of emotion similar to Chen Daoxian, especially what he has to make is a choice related to the road. I do not know how long it has been. Chen Daoxian suddenly opened his eyes, and his eyes regained firmness. He decided to choose this path. The reason is very simple, because this road is strong enough. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan alone can suppress the world monsters for tens of thousands of years, and dare not invade the frontier of the human race, which shows the horror of his strength. Besides, although the path of immortality is taken by many monks, it is not the only path of cultivation. Cultivation of monks is essentially a way of comprehension. Who can say that the path taken by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is not the great way to heaven? Besides, what really made Chen Daoxian decide to take this path was the pango axe in his hand. If Chen Daoxian guessed correctly, the pango axe passed down to him by Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan should be a small fragment of the real pango axe from the Great Pangu. But the key point is that Chen Daoxian can't use his mana at all, but Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan can use it, which proves that the pango axe recognizes the power of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan more than mana. A word suddenly appeared in Chen Daoxuan's heart to prove the Tao with strength. Don't cultivate mana, spirit, and flesh, but only cultivate the divine body that combines the three. The more Chen Daoxian thought about it, the more he felt that it was possible, and naturally he made up his mind. Besides, even if you follow the path of immortality, with the environment of the Phoenix meteor realm, it is hopeless to pass the ninth thunder tribulation and become a Mahayana true immortal. Although Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan failed, it did not mean that Chen Daoxian would also fail. After all, he is the only one who has traveled the path of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, while the immortal Tao has been proved by countless monks that he cannot continue. How to choose in this situation is self-evident. Thinking of this, the comprehension stars in Chen Daoxuan's sea of knowledge ignited again, and his comprehension also soared. 10 times, 100 times, 300 times. Chen Daoxian didn't stop until his comprehension was increased to 300 times. With the blessing of 300 times of comprehension, Chen Daoxuan's analysis of the divine body of slaughtering Emperor Tianzuan became faster in an instant. He found that the divine body of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate was not a simple combination of fleshly body, mana, and divine soul, but that the three were combined according to special rules. And this rule is the avenue. Realizing this level, Chen Daoxuan's excited soul trembled. For the first time, he knew Chao Wendao, what it was like to die in Shiku. Flesh, mana, soul, the avenue. Chen Daoxuan's eyes became brighter and brighter. More and more, this is the divine body. My way is nothing but a request. That's what it means. Just when Chen Daoxian was struggling to realize the divine body of the emperor killing heavenly venerate, the outside world quietly changed. Tianzuan City. Gujian Tianzuan is sitting in the fairy city. For countless years, Gujian Tianzuan has been sitting in Tianzuan City, and he has hardly left. In fact, with the geographical location of Tianzuan City, Gujian Tianzuan does not have to be so careful. Because Tianzuan City is located in the innermost part of the extraterritorial battlefield, the world monster wants to invade Tianzuan City on a large scale. Only by removing the outermost immortal city in the extraterritorial battlefield can they attack Tianzuan City step by step. The outermost war zone of the extraterritorial battlefield is precisely the Jiu war zone, where Fei Chenxue served. The garrison war zone is also the war zone most frequently invaded by world monsters on the battlefield outside the territory. In comparison, the B3 war zone where Chen Daoxian had stayed before was considered relatively peaceful. On this day, when Gujian Tianzuan closed his eyes and meditated, a mana avatar quickly appeared in front of him. Gujian opened his eyes and quickly stood up. Lu Feng, why are you here? This roughing Tianzuan is not someone else, but the guardian Tianzuan of the main city of the 9 war zone. Seeing Gujian Tianzuan, roughing Tianzuan said anxiously, Gujian, something big happened. After listening to Tianzuan Roofing's narration, Gujian Tianzan's face became completely gloomy. The world monster has invaded in an all-round way. Hearing this news, even with Gujian Tianzan's cultivation base, he only felt dizzy. How dare they? Gujian Tianzan's face was extremely ugly. Don't the demon court emperor think that even if they use the power of the entire demon court to destroy my human race, will the demon court lose its power to unify the real demon world? This is the most incomprehensible part of Gujian Tianzuan. Doesn't the demon court want to unify the real demon world and then destroy the human race? Why did the opponents suddenly change their strategy? Is it? Gujian Tianzuan faintly thought of a possibility. Is the other party afraid of Chen Daoxian, the arrogance of the human race, who has survived 5 thunder tribulations in a row? However, based on his understanding of the demon court emperor, it is unlikely that the other party will change the entire demon court strategy for the sake of one person. Besides, even if the demon court forcibly takes down the human race, it will inevitably lose the strength to unify the real demon world. This is absolutely unacceptable to the demon emperor, who has the ambition to unify the real demon world and the Phoenix realm. But the other party did do this, and he did it very decisively, directly overwhelming the army. Ancient sword. Ancient sword. Seeing Gujian pondering, Tianzuan couldn't help but interrupt. Let's send more reinforcements. With the defense of my garrison 9th war zone, I won't be able to stop the demon court for long. Add reinforcements. Gujian Tianzuan struggled in his heart. In fact, even if all the inspections of the human race are sent over, how much threat can it pose to the demon court? The answer is not much threat at all. The 27 inspectors of the human race are like heavenly venerates. The strong ones are like ancient sword heavenly venerates, and the weakest are comparable to ordinary true immortal level world demons. But can the 27 true immortal level combat power reverse the situation in the 9th war zone? Bullshit. With the power of Youting, it is almost a sure thing to fully invade the Jiu war zone, and the Jiu war zone will fall. But Gujian Tianzuan is unavoidable. If you don't go to the rescue, Youting can take down the 9th war zone without much effort, and eat it like this, then the 8th war zone, and the 7th war zone. In the end, when the Youting army attacked Tianzuan City, there would not be much damage. In this way, not only will the demons be able to take down the human race, but they will also have the energy to continue taking down the real demon world. Therefore, the human race must fight against it, and even if the entire 9 war zone is lost, they must beat the opponent severely. The human race must let the demon court know that even if they can take down the human race, they will be full of blood. Without this ruthlessness, the human race is really fierce this time. Thinking of this, Gujian Tianzan's eyes became solemn. At the same time, on Tianzuan Mountain in Guangyuan Realm, The mana incarnation of Gujian Tianzuan flew out of Tianzan's mansion, and soon, the voice of Gujian rang in the ears of the other 26 inspecting Tianzuan. Everyone, the demon court is coming. Come to Tianzuan City. On the Tianzuan mountain, the inspecting Tianzuan heard the voice of the ancient sword Tianzuan, and his face changed suddenly. 7017K, please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website WAP. Chapter 512. Tianzuan City. One after another powerful breath gathered towards Tianzuan City, inside the human race palace. The mana incarnations of Gujian Tianzuan and Rufeng Tianzuan were already waiting outside the palace. With the passing lights flying, the anxious look on the face of Lufeng Tianzuan finally eased a little. In any case, the human race still has 27 patrolling Tianzuan, and the human race also has a line of defense built by immortal cities. Everyone. Seeing that all the people had arrived, Gujian Tianzuan didn't talk nonsense and said directly, "There is news from Tianzuan Rufeng. Yaoting has assembled a large army and fully invaded the Jiu War Zone." Rufeng Tianzuan added, "This time, the demon court is aggressive, and just outside the main city of my garrison 9th War Zone, there are more than 50 true immortal-level demons gathered." What? More than 50 true immortal-level demons? Is Yaoting planning to fully invade our human race? Isn't the demon court still unified in the real demon world? Hearing the words of Tianzuan Rufeng, everyone was talking about it for a while. Everyone, now is not the time to speculate on the thoughts of the demon court. The 9th War Zone is in jeopardy at this moment, and once the 9th War Zone falls, the defensive power of our human race will weaken a bit. If this goes on, Yaoting will even be able to take down my human race without breaking a sweat. There's no reason. Yaoting is stronger than my human race, but if you want to easily take down my human race, you have to break a few teeth. That is, seeing the excitement of the crowd, Gujian Tianzuan nodded secretly. At this moment, it is indeed the most critical moment for the human race. In the past, the war between the world demon and the human race was all about boiling frogs in warm water. They used the method of demon waves to continuously invade the immortal cities of the human race. Few world monsters have attacked the entire war zone of the human race in an all-round way like they are now. You must know that no war zone of the human race on the battlefield outside the territory includes a main city and a large group of acropolis under its command. For example, in the 9th War Zone, the entire 9th War Zone, the main city plus the Weicheng, there are more than 100 immortal cities. Attacking more than 100 immortal cities at one time. It can be seen how terrifying the troops invested by Yaoting this time. Gujian Tianzuan said again. The military situation is urgent. I suggest dispatching all the inspection Tianzuan to go to the 9th War Zone together. What do you think? I agree. I agree. I agree. In the sound of approval, Gujian Tianzuan nodded and said, "Okay, since that's the case, let's set off immediately." And many more. Just when everyone was about to leave, Lingyu Tianzuan stood up and said to stop him. "Everyone, have you ever thought about what would happen if this battle was Yaoting's plan to move the tiger away from the mountain?" Tiahu Lishan? Gujian Tianzuan frowned. "You mean Tianzuan City?" Lingyu Tianzuan said word by word. Hearing this, Gujian Tianzan's complexion suddenly changed. Indeed, even he went to help the 9th War Zone. What should Zuanqing do that day? Tianzuan City has always been guarded by the strongest people of the human race. In this era, the strongest person of the human race is his ancient sword Tianzuan. On that day, Zuanqing was left unguarded. As the most powerful immortal city of the human race, Tianzuan City needs at least one patrol Tianzuan to exert its full strength. And although Tianzuan City can move a short distance, it can't cross to the 9th War Zone. If the immortal city of the human race can be moved at will, there is no need for the human race to stick to one place. Although the immortal city of the human race is a fairy artifact, it can only be moved within a short distance, and the speed of movement is extremely slow, which is why the human race Tianzuan does not run around with the guardian immortal city. Not only Gujian Tianzuan, But other human race Tianzuan also reacted at this moment, and it was too dangerous to be taken by Yaoting. If the demon court succeeded in raiding Tianzuan City, because of the aid of the 9th war zone, then the demon court would have inserted a most fatal nail in the hinterland of the human race. Once Tianzuan City falls, Yaoting will inevitably send dozens of true immortal-level world monsters to guard it. At that time, the human race will not have the strength to retake the city. Seeing the ugly faces of everyone, Lingyu Tianzuan continued. So, Tianzuan City must be guarded. Gujian Tianzuan nodded. The pavilion master of Chuanbao Pavilion also nodded and said, Lingyu Tianzuan is right. Gujian Tianzuan frowned and said, but, this person who guards Tianzuan City? The 9 war zone was attacked, and as the most powerful heavenly venerate of the human race, he would definitely go to the rescue. Otherwise, Yaoting sent so many true immortal-level world demons, and other inspections of Tianzuan alone would not be able to keep it. But if he leaves, he must leave behind an inspector. Just when Gujian Tianzuan was in trouble, Lingyu Tianzuan said again, Gujian, everyone, just let me stay. Lingyu bowed his hands to everyone. In terms of strength, I am the weakest among the many inspections of Tianzuan, but with my strength, it is more than enough to sit in Tianzuan City. All right, Gujian Tianzuan nodded. The rest of the inspection Tianzuan heard the words and nodded in agreement. Seeing that everyone finally negotiated the candidates to sit in Tianzuan City, Ruffing Tianzuan, who had been waiting for a long time, hurriedly said, Everyone, since we have discussed the candidates for the guardianship of Tianzuan City, hurry up and help the 9th war zone. It is good. Everyone, let's go. After a while, Lingyu Tianzuan held the Tianzuan City control token left by Gujian Tianzuan and watched everyone leave, with a smile on his lips. Good show. It's on. Lingyu Tianzuan murmured. I just want to become an immortal, don't blame me. Fairy Tomb. Chen Daoxian sat in front of the corpse of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. By observing the corpse of the Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, he had already analyzed the structure of the divine body. To put it simply, the divine body cultivated by the emperor-killing heavenly venerate is connected by the avenue, and the monk's mana, spirit, and flesh are integrated into one. After cultivating into a divine body, the cultivator's body will gradually show a trend between energy and flesh. Anyway, from Chen Daoxuan's point of view, the famous Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate, is only one step away from being completely energized. After the divine body is completely energized, is it equivalent to the Mahayana true immortal realm of immortal Tao? Chen Daoxian guessed. In this way, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has not taken the last step. No wonder he will sit down. But immediately, Chen Daoxian was shocked. Yes, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan did not take the last step, which means that the opponent's cultivation base is only equivalent to the realm of the 8 tribulations Tianzuan of the immortal Tao. But how could Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan be so strong? As if thinking of something, Chen Daoxian took out the Panga axe in the storage ring. Is it because of it? Chen Daoxian muttered. This is the only reason, otherwise, it is impossible to explain why the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate only has a cultivation level equivalent to the 8th tribulation, Heavenly Venerate, but can kill the true immortal level world monsters like slaughtering dogs. After understanding the fleshly body of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, the next thing Chen Daoxian has to do is to transfer from the immortal way to the way of the divine body. The cultivation of the divine body has no secrets in his eyes. What Chen Daoxian has to do is to give up the original path. But since a decision has been made, Chen Daoxian is not the one who hesitates. At the moment, Chen Daoxian began to disperse all his mana. Time passed slowly. Chen Daoxuan's mana and primordial spirit have all dissipated, or in other words, under the framework of the Tao, they are integrated with his fleshly body. At the moment when the three were completely integrated, Chen Daoxuan's body shook violently. Immediately afterwards, his sea of consciousness and dantian completely disappeared. However, although his sea of consciousness and dantian disappeared, the golden scriptures in his sea of consciousness and the instruments in his dantian were still intact in his divine body. This is Nowhere is the Sea of Consciousness, nowhere is Dantian. Chen Daoxian succeeded in shaping the divine body once, and he was in a good mood. He immediately used his divine sense, and found that his divine sense was as unobstructed as before. The fact is exactly like this. The divine consciousness was born from the divine soul, and his divine soul was just integrated into the divine body. Of course he could use divine consciousness. But soon Chen Daoxian thought of an important question. Astral art. Chen Daoxian was apprehensive in his heart. If the constellation technique he had worked so hard to cultivate was abolished, because of the cultivation of the divine body, wouldn't it be because of small loss of greatness? But as he ran the constellation technique, the 1,800 orifice stars in the divine body suddenly lit up. In the divine body, the 1,800 stars in the star's kendo map also echoed Chen Daoxian's 1,800 orifice stars. An extremely terrifying force immediately blessed his divine body. It still works. Chen Daoxian looked overjoyed. It's just, how do I feel that the cultivation of the divine body is improving? After careful sensing, Chen Daoxian found that his divine body cultivation was actually improving. Not only that, Chen Daoxian also discovered that his divine body was actually absorbing the power of the stars transformed by the 1,800 six-star insect soldiers in the star kendo diagram. But how is that possible? It is clearly recorded in astral art that the 1,800 stars in the star kendo map can only be borrowed by the practitioner using the Zhou Tian Xing Do Great Array, and cannot be turned into their own at all. But now, the change in the divine body has broken his cognition. Although the divine body did not absorb the power of the insect soldiers quickly, this was the case when Chen Daoxian did not take the initiative to absorb it. At this moment, the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body are like 1,800 black holes, and the power projected by the six-star insect soldiers on these 1,800 black holes is gradually being swallowed up by them. What followed was that Chen Daoxian's divine body was slowly increasing. This divine body is too domineering, Chen Daoxian exclaimed. According to this trend, my divine body will soon be able to catch up with Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. Although Chen Daoxian has become a god, but after all, he only has the cultivation of the 5 tribulations heavenly venerate. Therefore, his divine body is still a lot worse than the Emperor Slaughter heavenly venerate. But now there are 1,800 six-star insect soldiers replenished, and his divine body is rapidly increasing. Of course, this rapid enhancement is only relative to normal cultivation. Chen Daoxian was obviously not satisfied with this speed. At this moment, a bold idea emerged in his heart. Since the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his divine body have changed, why not abandon the kendo map of the stars and directly set up a great array of stars in his divine body? He thought carefully about the general outline of astral art, and his divine body seemed to be able to meet the requirements for the formation of the sky. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian's heart began to heat up. Just relying on the power projected by the 1,800 six-star insect soldiers, 1,800 acupoints and stars can promote the continuous enhancement of the divine body. If he really integrates the 1,800 six-star worm soldiers and the 1,800 orifice acupuncture stars, his divine body cannot completely break the barriers that Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan has not been able to break through. To do or not to do, Chen Daoxian struggled fiercely in his heart. There was a rational voice in his heart, persuading himself to give up, because his strength is already strong enough. But Chen Daoxian understands that his strength is strong, but like Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, he has no confidence in taking the last step. In the lower realm, if a cultivator wants to leap from the 8 tribulations, heavenly venerate to the Mahayana true immortal, he must resort to the 9th thunder tribulation. But Fengyan realm no longer has this condition. As for going to the true demon realm, unless Chen Daoxian can suppress the entire sacred ancient demon realm by himself. But how is this possible? Even if he got the inheritance of the Emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate, even if he had the constellation technique, it was still impossible to do it. The constellation technique has greatly increased his strength, but for a powerhouse like Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, the increase is not so great, at least Chen Daoxuan's current stage of the asterisk technique. Even if Chen Daoxuan's future strength surpasses Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, with the help of astral technique, can he compare to the entire demon court and the sacred ancient demon realm behind Bai Yao court? Impossible. So he had to find another way. And astral art gave him this shortcut. At this moment, Chen Daoxian finally realized that the path he was taking now completely deviates from the traditional immortal way. Chen Daoxian had no reference for the future. He can only say that with his current divine body cultivation base, he is equivalent to the 8 tribulations, heavenly venerate of immortal Tao. Since the paths are different, why should I use the experience of immortal Tao to apply the path I'm taking at this time? Chen Daoxian asked back. At this moment, he finally made a decision in his heart, abandoning the star swordsmanship map, using his divine body as the sky, and rebuilding the astral technique. Chen Daoxian opened his mouth. The star kendo map flew out of his mouth. On the star map, 1,800 stars were extremely bright, and he knew that these stars were all transformed by 6-star insect soldiers. In the next second, Chen Daoxian waved his hand, and 1,800 stars turned into a streamer, and they came off the kendo map of stars. With the separation of 1,800 stars, the aura of the stars kendo map dropped rapidly, from the high-grade immortal artifact all the way down to the level of the 6th-order magic artifact. However, Chen Daoxian was unmoved. This star map was originally owned by others, and now it should be returned to its original owner. Seeming to understand Chen Daoxuan's intentions, the Star Sword Dao map rose into the sky and disappeared in the direction of Fengyun realm in just a split second. Chen Daoxian looked at the direction of Fenjianji with a smile on the corner of his mouth. Now it's up to me. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and opened his eyes again. His eyes were calm. Compared with Xingqian Kendo map, although his divine body is strong, it is definitely not as strong as the material of Xingqian Kendo map. As a growing immortal weapon inherited from the upper realm, although Chen Daoxian did not know the material for making the star's Kendo map, it was definitely stronger than his current divine body. Otherwise, the star Kendo map would not be able to serve as a canopy to carry the power of 1,806 star insect soldiers. Now Chen Daoxian wants to use his divine body as a new sky, which requires his divine body to withstand the power of 1,806 star insect soldiers. Of course, with his current divine body strength, this is simply impossible. But don't forget, Chen Daoxuan's divine sense continued to increase with the power emitted by the insect soldiers, which made it possible for him to repractice the astral technique. 7017K, please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 513. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan Cemetery. Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged facing the corpse of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. In his body, the 1,800 acupoints and stars were lit up one by one at this moment, exuding a terrifying devouring power. In front of Chen Daoxian, 1,806 star insect soldiers turned into golden light spots, scattered around his body like fireflies. The first one. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath. The acupuncture points in the body were swallowed by a 6-star insect soldier outside the god's body. The golden light spot is like a streamer, straight into Chen Daoxuan's body, and it is fleeting. The 1,806 star insect soldiers suddenly lost one and became 1,799. However, in Chen Daoxuan's divine body, there is an aperture star occupied by a 6-star worm soldier. Not only that, Chen Daoxian discovered that his aperture was actually devouring this worm soldier, including the energy and matter that made it up. Chen Daoxian did not expect that after cultivating a divine body, the acupoints and stars in his body would actually undergo such changes. This is too overbearing. It actually devoured a 6-star insect soldier directly. Originally, Chen Daoxian just planned to use the divine body as a sky curtain and place these 1,806 star insect soldiers. He did not expect that his acupoints were now so domineering that they directly swallowed the insect soldiers. It is also thanks to this insect soldier that he has a simple mind and recognizes Chen Daoxian as the master. Otherwise, once the worm soldier erupted in his aperture would be blown to pieces in an instant. At that time, even his divine body will be damaged. After all, his divine manifestation is only at the level of the 5 tribulations heavenly venerate, and a mere aperture cannot withstand the full blast of the 6-star insect soldiers. As for the remaining 1799 6-star insect soldiers, don't be delusional. But now, the 6-star worm soldier in Chen Daoxuan's body did not resist at all, letting Chen Daoxuan's acupoint swallow it up. At the moment when Chen Daoxuan's orifice acupoint devoured the 6-star worm soldier, the breath it exudes suddenly exploded, forming a distinct difference from the other orifice points in the body. What makes Chen Daoxian even more delighted is that his divine body is also slowly improving under the influence of this acupoint. Sure enough, my guess is correct. Placing the worm soldier in the acupuncture point can indeed lead to an increase in the cultivation of the divine body. Chen Daoxian was full of joy, because he found a way to take the last step, even without relying on the 9th thunder tribulation. Insect soldier? What an insect soldier! Chen Daoxian looked at the remaining 1799 insect soldiers with ecstasy in his eyes. Inner world. In the world opened up by Lingyu Tianzuan. A terrifying breath descended on this world, but Lingyu Tianzuan, as the master of this world, used his means to shield the other party's breath. The outside world does not know that the number 1 enemy of the human race, the Demon Court Emperor, actually teleported through the world and descended into the world of Lingyu Tianzuan. Lingyu Tianzuan wore a white Taoist robe, looked at the domineering man in front of him, bowed and saluted. Congratulations to the Emperor. Who knows that Yaoting Emperor glanced at him and said coldly, "Clone." Lingyu Tianzuan looked slightly embarrassed and cupped his hands. Your Majesty, my subordinate deity is sitting in Tianzuan City. If he leaves his post without authorization, he may be discovered by Gu Jian's old confidant. Although Gu Jian led people to the 9th war zone, he could also bring people back to help at any time so. The Emperor Yaoting ignored Lingyu Tianzuan's remarks and directly pierced his mind. Are you afraid that this seat will cross the river and demolish the bridge and kill you? Hearing this, Lingyu Tianzuan slammed, and immediately knelt down to the Emperor of Yaoting, and swore to the sky. The loyalty of the subordinates to the Emperor can be learned from the Great Road. The Emperor Yaoting took a deep look at Lingyu Tianzuan, waved his hand and said, "Get up." Thank you, Emperor. Lingyu Tianzuan breathed a sigh of relief. He knew that this level was temporarily over. Next, as long as he does what the other party explained, he will definitely get the opportunity to go to the real demon world, to cross the 9th thunder tribulation. At that time, he can fly directly to the upper realm, just like the ancient real immortals. As for the grievances between the Fengyan realm and the true demon realm, it has nothing to do with him from now on. Why is it that Lingyu has been practicing hard for tens of thousands of years, and he is going to fall into the last step of becoming an immortal? He is not reconciled, and even more reluctant. He knew that this move might ruin the entire human race in the Fengyan realm, but for the sake of his own path, he would not hesitate to do anything. I told you what to do, how is it? Emperor, everything has been done. Gu Jian led all the inspections of Tianzuan to help guard the 9th war zone. Tianzuan City is under the control of his subordinates. Now the entire inner world is in our pockets. I'm asking about that kid. The Yaoting Emperor looked at Lingyu Tianzuan, a little dissatisfied. Lingyu Tianzuan quickly smiled and said, Chen Daoxian is currently accepting the inheritance of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan in the tomb. Oh, did he really accept that guy's inheritance? The Demon Court Emperor raised his head, looked in the direction of the real demon world, and said silently, Father, the boy will avenge you. Although I can't kill that guy, I will kill his inheritance in front of that guy with my own hands. Bye. Father, have you seen it? Seeing the Demon Court Emperor in front of him raising his head and saying nothing, Lingyu Tianzuan did not dare to disturb him at all. It has not been a year or two that he has been dealing with this Demon Court Emperor. and he knows that the demons in this world have a deep prejudice against human monks. Of course, the reason for this is also clear to Lingyu Tianzuan. In the past, Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan personally killed the opponent's father. The hatred of killing the father. How not to make the other party hate the human race cultivator? Although Lingyu Tianzuan cooperated with Yaoting, he has always been uneasy in his heart. After all, the current emperor of Yaoting hates human cultivators so much. After Yaoting defeats the human race, what should he do if he turns his face and refuses to admit? However, although Tianzuan Lingyu knew that the other party was very likely to turn his face and deny his account, he still chose to betray the human race when he saw the huge gap in strength between the human race and the world demon, and the temptation to become an immortal by himself. Emperor, a long time, Lingyu Tianzuan said cautiously, I have a map of the location of the immortal tomb here. Please take a look at the emperor. Speaking, Lingyu Tianzuan took out a star map and handed it over. The emperor Yaoting took the star map, glanced at it, and nodded with satisfaction. When I kill this son, I will take you to the real demon world to transcend the calamity. Hearing this dream sentence, Lingyu Tianzuan trembled with excitement. Thank you, Emperor. Thank you, Emperor. In his voice of gratitude, the figure of the demon court emperor completely disappeared. The inner world is extremely vast, but in the eyes of Yaoting Emperor, the peak true immortal world demon, it is not that big. With his speed, he would be able to reach the fairy tomb, where Chen Daoxian was located in 3 days at most. But at the moment, in the tomb of the fairy, Chen Daoxian had swallowed the last 6-star insect soldier into the acupoint. At the moment when the last 6-star worm soldier was swallowed by his orifice, the Zhou Taingsing deformation was once again formed in Chen Daoxian's divine body. Each of the 1,800 orifice stars exudes extremely terrifying energy fluctuations. The 1,800 orifice stars are integrated through the Zhou Tianxing Do Great Array, and a terrifying force that surpasses ordinary true immortals erupts. But now, this force was directly subdued by Chen Daoxian. However, this is not what excites Chen Daoxian. What really excites him is that, under the influence of the power of 1,800 acupoints and stars, his divine body cultivation base is constantly surging. Although he has only spent less than 10 days from devouring the first 6-star insect soldier to the present, but his divine body cultivation level has soared directly from the realm of the 5 robbers to the realm of the 8th robbery. Not only that, his divine body cultivation base is still surging. Chen Daoxian felt that his divine body was becoming more and more fully energized. It seems that his divine body can be completely transformed by just one step. No, even if I don't do anything now, with the power of these 1,800 acupoints and stars, my divine body will transform to that level. Chen Daoxian secretly said in his heart, what a fairy! The cultivator's lifelong desire is nothing but to become an immortal and ascend to the upper realm. And now, Chen Daoxian is within reach of this realm. Originally, Chen Daoxian thought that when he really got to this point, he would be extremely excited. But his reaction was far calmer than he had imagined. Just like the transformation of his divine body, everything is just a matter of course. The only thing Chen Daoxian didn't expect was that he would eventually embark on a path completely different from immortal Dao. Feeling the transformation of the divine body, Chen Daoxian seemed to be unable to do anything except wait silently at the moment. Do not. There's one more thing. Chen Daoxian suddenly remembered something, and immediately took out a spiritual treasure from the storage ring. The treasure known as the Heaven-Opening Axe. Speaking of which, the reason why Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan is so powerful that he can overwhelm an era all depends on this treasure. It's just that this treasure can only be used if you step on the avenue of the gods. Chen Daoxian had tried it himself, and his mana had no effect on it. But now, Chen Daoxian once again held the handle of the giant axe. Just as he held the axe, Chen Daoxian's eyes suddenly darkened. The next moment, his consciousness seemed to be pulled into a place of chaos. There is no up and down, no left and right, and naturally there is no heaven and earth. This place is even more lonely than the endless void, and time has no meaning in this chaotic land. I don't know how long it took, maybe 100 million years, maybe only one breath. Chen Daoxian saw a giant in this chaos. A bruised, gasping giant. The giant had bare feet, held a giant axe, and his eyes were determined. The giant held his breath, raised the giant axe with one hand, exhaled a breath of turbid air, and said in his mouth, "Open the sky." With this voice, a big explosion suddenly occurred in the chaos, and Chen Daoxian could not describe this explosion at all. It's just that after this explosion, something called matter was born in the chaos. And then there was space and time. Even Chen Daoxian saw a familiar golden light flashing away. Is that the golden scriptures? Chen Daoxian didn't have time to take a closer look. The next moment, his consciousness was moved out of this chaotic place. Although his consciousness was moved out of the land of chaos, the image of the giant holding the panga axe to open the sky was deeply imprinted in Chen Daoxian's mind. Want to forget cannot forget. Shen Yun. Chen Daoxian murmured. I didn't expect that in this small piece of pango axe, there would actually be the spirit of opening the sky. This chance really. No wonder Chen Daoxian was excited. He did not expect that the giant axe in the hands of the emperor slaughtering heavenly venerate was actually a fragment of the pango axe. What's even more rare is that in this pango axe fragment, there is still the spirit of opening the sky. Sure enough, the avenue of the divine body that I and the Emperor Slaughter Tianzun took is the road of proving the Tao with strength. Before the prehistoric era, the immortal way was only one of the great roads. The way of the divine body is not weaker than the way of the immortal, but after the immortal Tao became prosperous, there were fewer and fewer cultivators who really followed the way of the divine body. There is no distinction between these two paths. Only the cultivator has the distinction. Those who are strong in the way of the divine body are like the great Pengu, and those who are strong in the immortal way are like the sage Hongjun. How can the way of the divine body be inferior to the immortal way? The most important thing is that the way of the divine body has an unparalleled advantage in the Phoenix meteor realm. It can reach the level of the Mahayana true immortal without going through a calamity. Emperor Slaughter Tianzun fell at the last step. Chen Daoxian took the last step because he learned the astral art. Everything can only be said time, fate. Feeling the Kaitian charm in his mind, Chen Daoxian was reluctant to waste it. He didn't know when the next time Pango Axe would let him watch the Kaitian charm. Kaitian Shen Yun will fade away in his mind little by little as time goes by. Chen Daoxian wants to comprehend it as much as possible before he forgets it. At this moment, Chen Daoxian finally understood why Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate only had the divine body cultivation of 8 tribulations Heavenly Venerate, but he could kill a true immortal level world monster like a slaughtering dog. The key is to open the sky and the charm. Although Chen Daoxian didn't know how much the other party had learned in tens of thousands of years, the other party was able to kill the last demon court emperor, relying on the Panga axe in his hand and the spirit of opening the sky. Although Chen Daoxian didn't have tens of thousands of years for him to slowly comprehend the spirit of Kaitian, he has another more perverted thing. Hongmeng Enlightenment Classic. He couldn't help but think of the golden light that flashed away in the picture of Pangu opening the sky. Sure enough, my golden scriptures are the treasures born at the beginning of Hongmeng. Chen Daoxian secretly said, shaking his head, throwing off the distracting thoughts in his mind. He immediately activated the understanding stars in God's body. As the comprehension stars burned, his comprehension began to soar. This time, Chen Daoxian directly raised his comprehension to 1,000 times unprecedented state. With 1,000 times comprehension, his current comprehension stars can only last for 1 stick of incense at most. But Chen Daoxian couldn't wait. Kaitian Shen Yin has been forgotten more and more, and he must comprehend it as much as possible within a stick of incense, even if it is only a little bit of comprehension. With the blessing of 1,000 times of comprehension, Chen Daoxian felt that the picture of Panga Kaitian in his mind became extraordinarily slow. Slowly, he saw it clearly. He could clearly see the movement of the great Tao in Panga's body. What a vast Tao law! Chen Daoxian was shocked by the Tao law in Panga God's body. Compared with the Tao law of the other God's body, the Tao law in his god's body, was as ridiculous as a child's graffiti. However, Chen Daoxian was not discouraged, because he knew that the one he saw was the Great who opened up the great wasteland. Before the chaos opened, this one was the most well-deserved strongest among countless innate gods and demons. The avenues within his body are, of course, incomparably vast. Just looking at it, Chen Daoxian was dizzy and didn't dare to look at the avenue in Panga God's body. Chen Daoxian only observed the trajectory of this axe. In the cemetery, Chen Daoxian closed his eyes, made an axe with his hand, and kept gesturing. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 514. In the blink of an eye, the time for a stick of incense passed. Chen Daoxian withdrew from the state of 1,000 times comprehension. Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan Cemetery. Chen Daoxian opened his eyes and said to himself, "Unfortunately, it's still a little bit." He already felt that part of Kaishan's charm had been lost, and the picture of Pangu Kaitian in his mind was not as clear as it was before a stick of incense. Chen Daoxian didn't dare to delay, and immediately took out a bunch of Jiyuan beads from the gourd-shaped cave artifact he carried with him. With the palm of his hand, these Jie Yuanju immediately shattered, and Chen Daoxian was completely wrapped by countless chaotic auras. But he didn't panic at all. The next moment, the golden scriptures in the god's body began to swallow these chaotic qi, while the golden scriptures swallowed the chaotic qi, while transforming the chaotic qi into stardust of understanding. Finally, a brand new star of perception was constructed again. Chen Daoxuan's face was overjoyed when he saw the new comprehension stars in the divine body, but he immediately felt that the spirit of opening the sky was constantly passing, so he didn't dare to delay, and immediately entered the state of 1,000 times comprehension again. Only this time, Chen Daoxian clearly felt that it had become a little more difficult to understand the spirit of Kaitian. Is it because of the passage of Kaitian Shinyun? Chen Daoxian muttered. He didn't know the specific requirements for comprehending the heaven-opening charm on Panga's axe, but he obviously couldn't comprehend it at will. Maybe it took a time interval, or maybe there were other conditions. Chen Daoxian didn't care about the time interval. With his divine body cultivation base, that was about to break through to the level of a true immortal, he could feel that his lifespan had reached an extremely terrifying level. To a certain extent, with the cultivation of the divine body that he is about to break through, he can already live the same life as heaven and earth. Without the limitation of lifespan, Chen Daoxian naturally didn't care about the time limit for comprehending Kaitian Shinyun. What Chen Daoxian was worried about was that other requirements were needed to comprehend Kaitian Shinyun. Therefore, he must do everything in his power to seize this opportunity for enlightenment. After all, no one knows when the next time they will have such an opportunity will have to wait. Soon, a stick of incense passed by again. Chen Daoxian once again absorbed the qi of chaos and transformed his perception of stardust. Time passed little by little. A day later, Kaitian Shinyun completely disappeared from his mind. He clearly knew that he had seen the picture of the great Panga Kaitian from the fragments of Panga's axe, but he couldn't remember the specific content of Kaitian. It was as if the image of Pangu opening the sky was completely wiped from his mind by an invisible force. Opening his eyes again, Chen Daoxian stood up, and then respectfully kowtowed 3 times towards Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan. The other party preached to him with his corpse. For him, although he did not have the name of master and apprentice, he had the reality of master and apprentice. Chen Daoxuan's worship is justified. After worshipping the emperor, Chen Daoxian slowly withdrew from the other's tomb. With a flash of light, he found an open space in this immortal tomb. Then Chen Daoxian took a deep breath. He could clearly sense that his divine body was stronger than the Emperor Slaughter, heavenly venerate at the peak of that year. Moreover, his divine body is still strengthening under the impetus of the 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body. If other cultivators observe Chen Daoxian with divine sense, they will find that his divine body is no longer a pure flesh and blood body, but is developing in the direction of energy. Chen Daoxian knew that this was the avenue of the divine body that was different from the immortal way. The transformation of the divine body cannot be accomplished overnight. It is a slow process. Chen Daoxian wondered if it was the same for other spiritual practitioners, or if the power source to support the transformation of his divine body was insufficient. But Chen Daoxian prefers the latter reason. The ninth thunder tribulation by Tianzuan is relying on the power of thunder tribulation to complete the transformation from the tribulation period to the final step of the Mahayana period, and Chen Daoxian cannot use the power of thunder tribulation now. Fortunately, the avenue of the divine body can not only rely on the power of thunder tribulation to complete the final transformation, but also other powers, such as the 1800 acupuncture stars that make up the Zhou Tian Xingdou Great Array. Fairy Tomb. On a vast expanse of wasteland, Chen Daoxian stood quietly in the wasteland, with a thought. His divine body began to soar. This time, he didn't use the magical powers of the Dharma image. What he showed at the moment was the original size of his divine body. Thousands, 5,000, 10,000, 50,000, 80,000. After the divine body soared to 80,000 zhang, it continued to rise. But Chen Daoxian can clearly feel that the speed of his divine body skyrocketing has slowed down. It seems that 80,000 zhang is the limit size of the divine body before breaking through. 80,000 feet, converted to the height of the previous life, is 267 kilometers. Even if the true immortal Jinping world demon, that Chen Daoxian had seen before, only had a demon body of several 100,000 feet. His current divine body is no longer much smaller than the opponent's. It is foreseeable that once Chen Daoxian breaks through, his divine body will be much larger than that of the true immortal Jinping world demon. For monks who follow the way of the divine body, the size of the divine body is very important, because the body cultivator does not cultivate mana and soul. His strength is all above the body. The larger the body, the stronger the body cultivator is. Of course, in the usual battles, the cultivator of the divine body does not need to unfold the divine body, but only needs to maintain a normal body shape. But once the cultivator fully reveals the divine body, it means that he will go all out. This is the same as the real monster's body, when the world monster fights fiercely. Chen Daoxian showed his divine body in this wasteland. Naturally, he did not want to fight with anyone, but to confirm what he had learned from the spirit of Kaitian. Although the Kaitian Shenyun had been completely forgotten in his mind, what he learned from Kaitian Shenyun really belonged to him. Emperor Slaughter Tianzin's strength is so strong, not because of his cultivation, but because of what he learned in the spirit of opening the sky. Now Chen Daoxian finally has this qualification. It's just that compared to Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, Chen Daoxian is more fortunate, because he also has the astral technique, which can cultivate the divine body to the level of a true immortal. Chen Daoxian stretched out his palm, and a quaint giant axe appeared in his hand, which was the Pango axe. As a low-grade Lingbao, Chen Daoxian drove it, but there was no pressure. This is very different from the immortal artifact. If the cultivator's cultivation base is insufficient, it is not enough to motivate the immortal artifact. But Lingbao is different. It is far from enough to motivate Lingbao with Chen Daoxian's divine body cultivation, but he can mobilize it. But the strength he exerts cannot be compared with that of earth immortals and heavenly immortals. Holding the Pango axe, Chen Daoxian looked solemn. Previously, under the blessing of 1,000 times of comprehension, he had comprehended the spirit of opening the sky for a whole day, and he turned the comprehension into 3 moves. Now Chen Daoxian will confirm and perfect these 3 moves. Looking at the lonely and desolate world of immortal tombs, Chen Daoxian took a deep breath. The first of the 3 types of Kaitian, killing immortals. In Chen Daoxian's mind, the trajectory of the giant axe cutting through the chaos flashed again. At the same time, the Panga axe in his hand moved. The trajectory of this axe is exactly the same as that of the axe when Pango opened the sky. But if a powerful cultivator is watching, he will find that this axe only has its surface, but the inner avenue is completely different. But with Chen Daoxian's divine body cultivation base, it is not easy to imitate his appearance. If you want to imitate a little bit of the charm of Panga's opening of the sky, let's wait until the day he is sanctified. But it is only a mere appearance, and the power displayed by it is also terrifying. However, the first form in 3 forms of Kaitian, with Chun Deoxuan's current divine body cultivation, can already be perfectly controlled, and even without using the power of 1,800 acupoints and stars in his body, he can perform this move perfectly. Although Chen Daoxian doesn't know how this move compares to the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate, if he encounters that true immortal Jinping world demon again, Chen Daoxian has the confidence to kill it with an axe. This axe slashed through the void, but not even the space crack was left. It can be seen that Chen Daoxuan's control of the first style of Kaitian has reached its peak, and can be used as a regular move. After performing the first move, Chen Daoxian couldn't wait to perform the second move. The 3 Kaitian styles he learned from Kaitian Xunyuan were more terrifying than each. Chen Daoxian had a hunch that the second form of the opening day might not be so easy to perform smoothly. However, Chen Daoxian was not sure about the specifics. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian stopped thinking about it, took a deep breath, and poured infinite divine energy into the Panga axe. However, not enough. Chen Daoxuan's face was ashen. Careless, he didn't expect that the second form of opening the sky had such high requirements on the cultivation of the divine body. This time, Chen Daoxian once again experienced the pain caused by high understanding. If he hadn't comprehended the whole day with 1,000 times his comprehension, how could he have comprehended the 3 ways of opening the sky? It seems that there is no need to try the third style of Kaitian anymore. With this second style of Kaitian alone, he can drink a pot. Sure enough, after Chen Daoxian discovered that his divine body cultivation was not enough to support this move, his divine body actually burned completely. Before Chen Daoxian could react, a terrifying energy poured into the Pango axe. Immediately, the second form of Kaitian came out smoothly. Feeling the terrifying power of Kaishan's second style, Chen Daoxian did not dare to slash at the earth, but slashed the axe into the sky. The second style of opening the sky, slaying the gods. This axe ripped apart the sky and the space barriers of the immortal tomb world in just an instant. This axe, the rays of light that erupted stretched for thousands of miles. After tearing apart the space barriers of the immortal tomb world, it did not stop at all, and flew all the way to the depths of the endless void. Outside the tomb keeper saw the huge gap in the world of the immortal tomb, and a drop of cold sweat flowed down his cheek. That's... He didn't know how to describe this axe. After a long time he murmured, Fortunately, it was not aimed at the world of the immortal tomb. Not caring too much, the tomb keeper immediately teleported and flew into the immortal tomb, along the space gap opened by Chen Daoxian. Enter the fairy tomb. The tomb keeper saw Chen Daoxuan's enormous divine body. He had seen the divine body of the Emperor Slaughter, Heavenly Venerate in the records of the classics, but he was not too surprised. Now he has only surprises in his heart. You succeeded? The tomb keeper immediately flew in front of Chen Daoxian, facing Chen Daoxuan's divine body, more than 200 kilometers away. The tomb keeper was as small as a speck of dust. Chen Daoxian naturally wouldn't talk to the other party in this state. With a thought, his divine body disappeared instantly, returning to the normal body shape of the adult race. Looking at the eager eyes of the tomb keeper, Chen Daoxian cupped his hands and said, Fortunately, I didn't lose my life. Good. Heaven will not kill my human race. And heaven will not kill my human race. The tomb keeper was excited. Chen Daoxian can understand the other party's excitement. The situation facing the human race is becoming more and more dangerous, and there is a possibility of extermination at any time. At this time, there is a powerhouse comparable to the Emperor slaughtering Heavenly Venerate, which is simply a boost to the morale of the human race. Not to mention Chen Daoxuan's strength, not to mention counterattacking the real demon world. But there is no problem in cooperating with the various fairy towns to protect the precarious human race. This is already the best situation human race, Heavenly Venerate, can think of. As for counterattacking the real demon world, They never thought about it. Even in the ancient times when the real immortals of the Phoenix meteor realm emerged one after another, the human race could not win the real demon world, let alone now. In today's era, it is lucky enough for the human race to be safe. After the tomb guard was excited, he found that Chen Daoxuan's face was pale, and he immediately thought of the axe that cut through the barriers of the world of the immortal tomb, and quickly said, "Are you injured?" "Small issue." Chen Daoxian shook his head. "I also ask Senior to protect the law for me 1 or 2. The tomb keeper immediately agreed. "Just rest assured to heal." Chen Daoxian nodded. He had just performed the second form of Tian Tian, and with his divine body cultivation, he could not support this move at all. In the end, he relied on the burning divine body to break out the power of this move. This allowed Chen Daoxian to learn about the new operation of the divine body, or a desperate method, burning the divine body. In order to perform the second form of Tian Tian, my divine body actually burned about 1%. Chen Daoxian shook his head. You must know that his divine body is full of divine soul, and burning 1% divine body also means that the damage to the divine soul reaches 1%. And once the soul is damaged more than 50%, it will fall into a state of fainting. When facing the enemy, falling into a faint, there is only one way to die. In this way, the burning divine body must not exceed 50%. Chen Daoxian remembered this standard line. But then again, if I used the astral technique, just now, I wouldn't have to burn the divine body. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but smile. At the critical moment, he forgot about the astral technique. This is also the reason why he performed the 3 forms of the open heaven for the first time. In addition, since he successfully cultivated the constellation technique, he has never performed it before, so it is normal to be unfamiliar. As for the 3rd form and 3 forms of Kaitian, Chen Daoxian would not dare to perform it even if he was beaten to death. Using the 2nd form of the opening day, he was already forcing him to burn the divine body. And even so, he only exerted the lowest power of the 2nd form of the opening day. If you want to maximize the power of Kaitian's 2nd form, it is not enough to burn only 1% of the divine body. Of course, if the astral technique is used, Chen Daoxian estimates that the effect is at least comparable to burning 5% of the divine body. The method of burning the divine body desperately is really terrifying. Chen Daoxian muttered. You must know that after performing the astral technique, his basic strength can theoretically be comparable to that of a true immortal. In other words, if Chen Daoxian burns 5% of his divine body, he can burst into power comparable to that of a true immortal. And this is just the basic strength, without any esoteric blessing. What if it burns 40%, or even 50% of the divine body at one time? Chen Daoxian finally knew why the Emperor slaughtered Tianzuan could kill the previous Demon Court Emperor. Encountering this kind of perversion, who will die if the Demon Court Emperor does not die? 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 515. Immortal Tomb World. The tomb keeper raised his head, looked at the devastated world, tore a huge gap, and sighed slightly. It's okay if it's abolished. If it's abolished, you won't have to guard this broken cemetery anymore. Say it. The tomb guardian flashed and flew out of the world of the immortal tomb, standing above the space gap opened by Chen Daoxian. On the wasteland, Chen Daoxian sat cross-legged and was slowly recovering his divine body. The tomb guardian stood on the space gap with his hands behind his back, not only guarding the immortal tomb, but also protecting the law for Chen Daoxian. Time passed slowly, and 2 days passed in a blink of an eye. Inner void. A stream of light is advancing at a speed that is unimaginable for ordinary monks. If you look closely, you will find that the speed of this streamer is even more exaggerated than the speed of the human race light boat. This is no longer the escape speed that heavenly venerate transcends tribulation can achieve. Looking at the desolate ruins of the true immortal realm in front of him, the Demon Court Emperor took a deep breath and said with a smile, "Is this the human race immortal tomb?" Who? The tomb keeper standing above the gap in the world of the immortal tomb immediately discovered the demon court emperor, who came quickly. In the eyes of the tomb keeper, the demon court emperor is like a scorching sun in the void, extremely hot and dazzling. Oh, there's another fish that slipped through the net. The emperor Yaoting cast his gaze over, with a faint smile on his monstrous face. Are you the guardian of this cemetery? Who are you? The tomb keeper had never seen the demon court emperor, but he felt an extremely terrifying aura on him. True fairy level. The opponent is definitely a real fairy level world demon. However, this is the hinterland of the human race, and there are Tianzuan towns guarding it. How can there be a true immortal level world demon here? Could it be that the world demon has broken through the human defense line? Seeing the suspicious look on the face of the tomb keeper, the smile on the face of the Yaoting emperor slowly disappeared. This is the one who is asking you, not you. Agitated by the coercion emanating from the other party, the tomb keeper couldn't help but take a few steps back. It's really weak. I can't even resist the pressure I normally exude from me. If it wasn't for the immortal city left by the ancient real immortals of your human race would have been destroyed long ago. Humph. This is not to worry about, your excellency. Your world demon is so strong, but you can take down my human race and talk about it. Although the tomb guard is not as strong as the opponent, his tone is not soft at all. Interesting, the Yaoting emperor smiled. You are the first person to face this seat. And there is such a daring person. Yes, I won't kill you today, get out. Who knows that the tomb keeper took a deep breath, and a strange look burst into his eyes. Although I don't want to guard this broken tomb, since I am the tomb guard, then the tomb is there. After saying that, the tomb guard folded his hands together, and his figure skyrocketed. In an instant, a Dharma elephant with a height of more than tens of thousands of meters appeared in front of the demon emperor. Facing the Dharma image of the tomb guard, the demon emperor was as small as dust, but it was this dust that made the Dharma image of the tens of thousands of tomb guards dare not act rashly. Although the tomb keeper is the heavenly venerate of 8 tribulations, his strength has not reached the level of inspecting heavenly venerate, and he is not the opponent of this true immortal level world demon at all. Now, he only hopes that the war that broke out here will disturb the guards of Tianzuan City. The space gap above the immortal tomb. 2 figures, one big and one small, confronted each other. Man's arm is a car. I don't know whether to live or die. The Yaoting emperor only said this, then raised his right hand, and flicked his finger towards the tens of thousands of feet in front of the Dharma elephant. Next moment, the Dharma image with thousands of feet guarding the tomb seemed to be impacted by an unparalleled force and fell directly towards the world of the fairy tomb. Boom! There was a shock like the earth shaking, and the whole world of the immortal tomb trembled violently. In the wasteland, a giant pit with a diameter of hundreds of kilometers suddenly appeared. Inside the giant pit, there was a gravekeeper who had been destroyed by the Dharma image. Perhaps the demon court emperor kept his hand, or perhaps this blow was not enough to kill the tomb keeper. He lay in the giant pit, golden blood gushing out of his mouth. Cough, cough, cough. The tomb guard kept coughing up blood, struggling to stand up. But his injury at the moment does not allow him to do any other action. With a single finger, Yaoting Emperor has already severely damaged his soul and body. If he hadn't left his hand, he would have already been wiped out. Got you. Above the fairy tomb world, the Emperor Yaoting was separated from the world barrier. His eyes passed through the huge space gap above, and cast his eyes on Chen Daoxian. The collision of heaven and earth, caused by the fall of the tomb keeper, just now did not seem to affect Chen Daoxian. Now, Chen Daoxian's figure is being wrapped in a golden light, floating in the already messy wasteland. Humph. Pretend. The demon court emperor snorted coldly. Next moment, I saw 2 huge black claws like mist at the huge space gap above. These 2 giant black claws are opening up the space gap that was avoided by Chen Daoxian little by little. The immortal tomb world was first opened by Chen Daoxian with the second style of opening the sky, and it has not yet fully recovered. And then this gap was directly opened by the Yaoting Emperor. Even if this true immortal realm did not die, being tossed by Chen Daoxian and Yaoting Emperor. It is estimated that death is not far away. Die. The space gap that had gradually recovered was torn open again by a huge gap. Immediately afterwards, a towering giant claw made of black mist shot towards Chen Daoxian. This scene is like a falling star celestial body, smashing on a small human race. Seeing this terrifying claw, the Gravekeeper's heart gradually cooled down. He knew that even though Chen Daoxian got the inheritance of the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, after all, the time was short, and his strength was not as good as that of the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate, even compared to him. It's over. The Tomb Keeper closed his eyes in despair, as if he could not bear to watch the next scene. But the moment he closed his eyes, an earth-shattering roar spread throughout the world of the immortal tomb. What? In this roar, in addition to anger, the Gravekeeper also heard a hint of pain. The tomb guards didn't even bother to use their spiritual sense to check, and quickly opened their eyes. The sight in front of him will be unforgettable for a lifetime. I saw that the giant black claws that had fallen from the sky before were cut into two halves by Chen Daoxuan's axe. The Tomb Keeper couldn't help staring at Chen Daoxian blankly. The white Taoist robe had long since shattered, revealing his strong upper body. He held a giant axe, raised his head, looked at the mighty demon court emperor, and wailed wildly there. How is it possible? The Tomb Keeper couldn't believe his eyes, but the black giant claw that broke on the wasteland could not be faked. It was the claws of the demon court emperor. Die! I want you to die! Outside of the fairy tomb world, the demon court emperor completely revealed his demon body, the monster body of millions of meters. Even if the torn space gap is in front of it, it is only a trivial small opening. Chen Daoxian, give me death. The demon body of the demon court emperor is a violent ape, but compared with the ape of the demon beast, the other party has 6 arms. However, Chen Daoxian cut off one just now, and now there are only 5 left. But for the demon court emperor at the pinnacle of the true immortal level, the injury of cutting off his arm is not even a drizzle. In just a split second, the opponent's arm was restored to its original state. Chen Daoxian ignored the demon court emperor, who revealed his demon body, but teleported to the Gravekeeper's side. First, he put a healing medicinal pill into the opponent's mouth, and then put the opponent in the Dongtian magic weapon. After completing all this, Chen Daoxian raised his head and looked at the demon court emperor, who was hundreds of feet tall. Compared with the real immortal level world monster he encountered in Yaoguang City, the monster body in front of him was more than 10 times larger. Although it is impossible to judge the strength of a world monster based on its body, normally, the larger the body of the world monster, the stronger its strength. Anyway, the pressure Chen Daoxian felt in front of him was 10 times, or even 100 times more than that of the true immortal world demon in Yaoguang City. This is a real fairy-level peak world monster. Chen Daoxian immediately judged the opponent's strength. There aren't many world demons of this level, even in the demon court, right? Chen Daoxian guessed. Otherwise, the real immortal level world demons in the demon court are so strong that human race has long been wiped out. Even if there is an immortal city left by the ancient real immortals, it is useless. Come out! The violent ape roared, and on each of its 6 arms, each arm held a stick-type high-grade pure yang fairy weapon. At this moment, it danced with 6 arms, and the 6 giant sticks waved down at the fairy tomb world. Not good. Seeing this violent scene, Chen Daoxuan's expression changed immediately. Without thinking about it, he just teleported and disappeared into the world of the fairy tomb. At the moment when Chen Daoxian left, the entire fairy tomb world was hit by 6 giant sticks. In this scene, it was as if 2 stars collided fiercely, and the violent explosion caused strong light radiation. But Chen Daoxian was in the void of the inner domain, but he could not hear the slightest sound, and could only witness the scene of the destruction of the sky and the earth. The immortal tomb world was actually blown up by this violent ape. The violent ape was not reconciled to blowing up the world of the immortal tomb with the immortal weapon, and glared at Chen Daoxian, who escaped by teleportation and roared. The descendant of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, will you just run away? Brave, fight with me. As you wish. Chen Daoxian took a deep breath and his divine body soared. Just a moment. His divine body rose to about 100,000 zhang. Haha, it really is the divine body of Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate. The Youting Emperor laughed wildly. Your divine body looks bigger than the one cultivated by the Emperor Slaughter Heavenly Venerate. But I don't know how powerful the axe in your hand is? Chen Daoxian retorted. Didn't you taste it just now? Court death. Chen Daoxuan's words reminded him of the pain of a broken arm, and immediately swung a stick at him. Good come. In the face of the terrifying stick, Chen Daoxian ignored it, raised the giant axe in his hand, and waved it in the face of the stick. Boom! The violent collision triggered a terrifying wave, which spread to the surrounding barren world, making a terrifying sound. This moment, the desolate little world around was captured by the two men's crazy confrontation, like a small boat in a sea of anger, and there is a risk of being destroyed at any time. But whether it is Chen Daoxian or the Demon Court Emperor, they can't care about this at the moment. In the eyes of the two of them, only each other. Happy. Happy. The Youting Emperor swung a stick again to repel Chen Daoxian. As expected of the inheritance of that guy who killed the Emperor, it really is strong enough. A humanized smile appeared on the face of the violent monkey. But if you only have this kind of heat, today will be your death day next year. Chen Daoxian also discovered that he used the 100,000 zhang divine body to perform the heavenly first form, and its power was only comparable to a stick fairy weapon in the hands of the violent ape in front of him. But the power of the opponent's previous 6 arms waving together, he is far from comparable. Seeing the opponent's 6 arms attack at the same time, Chen Daoxian couldn't help but think of the magical power of 3 heads and 6 arms. But even if he uses this magical power now, it is useless. After all, he does not have 6 panga axes for him to drive. Think of this. Chen Daoxian immediately displayed the astral art. Open. Following an order. The Zhou Tianxing deformation composed of 1,800 orifices and stars in the god's body suddenly erupted with a terrifying force. Even the Demon Court Emperor felt the terror of this power. He could feel that the power in Chen Daoxian broke that boundary. True immortal? The Youting Emperor couldn't believe his eyes. No, your divine body has not changed. You are using the secret method to burst out the power of the true immortal. The Demon Court Emperor is very sure. Okay, I used to kill you easily, and I didn't feel any pleasure. But now you are just right. The Demon Court Emperor is extremely arrogant. Chen Daoxian had no intention of arguing with the other party. At this moment, he only felt that an explosive force was surging in his body. This was the first time he had used it in front of others after he learned astral art. And the target is the Demon Court Emperor of the true demon realm. With the support of this terrifying power, Chen Daoxian finally had the confidence to perform the second style of Tian Tian, without burning the divine body. Chen Daoxian looked at the arrogant Demon Court Emperor and said coldly, the second form of Kaitian, slaying God. The power of astrology, the second form of the 3 forms of opening the sky. At this moment, Chen Daoxian broke out the strongest attack in history. Facing this axe, the Demon Court Emperor, who had a demon body of several million feet, was stunned. How can it be so strong? How can it be so strong? The Youting Emperor was stunned for less than a billionth of a second. Then he came back to his senses. Want to kill me? Dreaming. Once again, the 6 giant sticks are swung together and finally combined into one blow. The previous blow that exploded the world of the immortal tomb reappeared. However, this time, the Demon Court Monarch did not have the power to destroy the world of the immortal tomb with a single blow. I saw his huge monster body of millions of meters, like a meteorite that was hit, dragging a long tail hui, and flew out towards the void of the inner domain. As for the 6 stick-type high-grade fairy artifacts in its hands, one of them shattered directly, and the other 5 were damaged differently. Its monster body is full of cracks. If most of the power of this blow was not absorbed by the high-grade fairy weapon in its hands, he would be dead by now. He can kill me. He can kill me. The Demon Court Emperor was stunned, but soon it reacted. Escape. Must escape. Immediately, The Emperor Yaoting took advantage of the distance opened by Chen Daoxuan's axe and fled wildly. After all, it is a true immortal level peak cultivation base after all, and its escaping speed is much faster than that of Chen Daoxian. But the Yaoting Emperor is seriously injured at the moment, and the speed of his escape is similar to the speed of Chen Daoxuan's post-star surgery. In this way, the two flew in the direction of Tianzuan City one after the other. 7017K. Please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. Chapter 516. How dare you escape in the direction of Tianzuan City? In the void of the inner domain, Chen Daoxian bit behind the Demon Court Emperor. Detecting Chen Daoxian, who was chasing after him, the Demon Court Emperor's face was gloomy. It was the first time in his life that he was chased and killed like a lost dog. However, how could he be so strong? He shouldn't be so strong. At this moment, the Demon Court Emperor even wondered if Ling Yu had set up a plan for him in conjunction with the top officials of the human race, and deliberately lured it to come over and kill him. Otherwise, it is impossible to explain how Chen Daoxuan's strength could be hidden so well. Thinking of this, the Yaoting Emperor was startled. If Ling Yu sets up a situation for it, then if it runs away in the direction of Tianzuan City, wouldn't it be self-defeating? Thinking of this, the Yaoting Emperor secretly regretted in his heart. It is too careless. It should not enter the hinterland of the human race alone. But now it has no way out, except to find Ling Yu Tianzuan, and let him use world teleportation to help him leave. Yaoting Emperor can't think of a better way to escape. Right now there's only one chance to gamble. The Yaoting Emperor sullenly said secretly. Chen Daoxian was chasing behind the Yaoting Emperor, and he was also happy when he saw the direction of the other party's escape. This guy, he doesn't know that it is the direction of Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian was secretly happy. It is estimated that the other party will be very surprised to see Gu Jin Tianzuan driving Tianzuan City, to block him in front of him. Thinking of this, Chen Daoxian was not in a hurry, and fell behind the other party without any hassle, letting the Yaoting Emperor take a sigh of relief. The opponent's speed has slowed down. How sensitive the Yaoting Emperor was. He immediately noticed that Chen Daoxian had slowed down. He didn't know if it was time for Chen Daoxuan's secret method, or if the other party deliberately revealed flaws. In short, he didn't dare to gamble after all. If he lost the gamble, he would die. 3 days later, Tianzuan City is already in sight. Seeing Tianzuan City, Chen Daoxian and Yaoting Emperor were both overjoyed. From a distance, Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was responsible for guarding Tianzuan City, felt 2 extremely powerful breaths, and flew towards Tianzuan City quickly. He immediately urged Tianzuan City, and opened all the defenses of Tianzuan City. Boom! Endless spiritual light, following the giant formation established by the ancient real immortals, gathered around Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian sensed that the breath of Tianzuan City continued to soar. True immortal early stage, true immortal middle stage, true immortal late stage, true immortal peak. In the end, the coercion displayed by the entire Tianzuan City faintly touched the level beyond the true immortal. Earth immortal. Chen Daoxian looked at Tianzuan City in shock. Until this moment, he really understood that the human race can still stand for 470,000 years in the Phoenix world, after all the true immortals and powerhouses have ascended. What a Tianzuan City! This is Tianzuan City! Chen Daoxian sighed. The Emperor Yaoting sensed the terrifying pressure emanating from Tianzuan City, and his face changed faintly, but he was immediately suppressed by him. Although Tianzuan City was terrifying, its demon court also had the power to suppress it. Yaoting dared to launch a unified battle against the entire true demon realm, because Yaoting received the support of a demon saint in the ancient demon domain. It is because of the support of the demon saint that the demon court dares to launch a war unscrupulously in the real demon world. Otherwise, although the ordinary real immortal level world demon is powerful, it will not make all the forces in the real demon world fear. Chen Daoxuan's eyes passed through Tianzuan City, and saw Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was driving the entire Tianzuan City. The Yaoting Emperor also saw each other. Stop it now! Stop him! The two spoke in unison and shouted this sentence towards Lingyu Tianzuan, who was driving Tianzuan City. Lingyu Tianzuan was also stunned by the scene in front of him. What did he see? A five tribulations heavenly venerate, whom he had only seen before, was actually chasing and killing the demon court emperor. This scene is as absurd as a cheer-refining cultivator chasing and killing Jindan real person. Lingyu Tianzuan even wondered if he was wrong. Chen Daoxuan's eyes became slightly wary when he heard Yaoting Emperor shout, "Stop him!" He knew that Tianzuan City was originally guarded by the ancient sword Tianzuan. So the question came, what about the ancient sword Tianzuan? Thinking of the previous Yaoting Emperor's desperate efforts to run towards Tianzuan City, Chen Daoxian had a faint feeling in his heart, and even the speed of chasing the Yaoting Emperor completely slowed down. A mere monarch of the demon court is naturally nothing to worry about when he performs the astral technique and the second style of opening the sky. But with the addition of the powerful weapon of the human race, Tianzuan City, it is not necessarily the case. Chen Daoxian did not dare to be careless. Seeing that Lingyu Tianzuan was indifferent, the demon court emperor released a big move and said, "Lingyu, do you still want to transcend the tribulation and become an immortal and fly to the upper realm? Cross the robbery and become an immortal, soar to the upper realm." Lingyu repeated this sentence in his mouth. His eyes were complicated for a while, and finally turned into a firmness. Cross the calamity and become a fairy. Fly to the upper realm. What does the lower realm have to do with me, the real fairy in the upper realm? Thinking of this, Lingyu Tianzan's eyes completely firmed up. But he was still reluctant to help, and instead said to the Yaoting Emperor, "Emperor, I want you to give me a guarantee." "What guarantee?" The Yaoting Emperor was going crazy. In the past, Lingyu Tianzuan had no right to bargain with him. But now the other party is controlling the human race Tianzuan City, and it is being chased by the fierce Chen Daoxian. It knows that the current Lingyu Tianzuan has this qualification. Seeing that Chen Daoxian had completely stopped chasing, the Yaoting Emperor simply stopped too. Chen Daoxian, Yaoting Emperor, and Tianzunqing have become a triangular confrontation. "Okay, I promise you." The demon court emperor's clothes softened. Immediately, the Yaoting Emperor took the face of Chen Daoxian and the countless human monks in Tianzuan City and swore an oath. "I swear here, after this battle, I will help Lingyu Tianzuan to survive the ninth thunder tribulation. If there is a false statement, this seat is willing to be abandoned by the great Tao." Boom! Even though he was in the void of the inner realm, there was a thunderous explosion in Chen Daoxuan's ear. The oath of the avenue done. In Tianzuan City, countless human monks took to the streets. Looking at Lingyu Tianzuan, who was wrapped in golden light in the city, his face was full of disbelief. Lingyu Tianzuan betrayed the human race. Tianzuan betrayed the human race. Is this God's death to my human race? Lingyu thief die. In Tianzuan City, more human monks were unwilling, and they all killed Tianzuan Lingyu, who was wrapped in golden light. But these people, the highest cultivation base, is only the Daojun of creation realm, not even a heavenly venerate. How can he be Lingyu Tianzan's opponent? Not to mention that the other party now controls Tianzuan City, and his strength even surpasses that of the demon court emperor. Even approaching the earth immortal, countless human monks rushed towards Lingyu Tianzuan, but before they could get close, they were shattered by the golden light surrounding Lingyu Tianzuan. When Chen Daoxian saw this scene, his heart was filled with anger. Why seek death? Lingyu Tianzuan looked at the human cultivator like moths to the flame, and sighed. "I just want to become an immortal, what's wrong?" He seemed to be explaining to the Terran monks, and seemed to be making excuses for himself. "It's not me that's wrong. It's this world where the weak eat the strong. The human race is weak, and I depend on the strong. What's wrong? What's wrong?" Looking at the human cultivator who was still rushing towards him, Lingyu Tianzan's eyes were red with blood. "Why do you force me to kill? Why do you force me?" Lingyu Tianzuan was wrapped in golden light. He saw a Taoist in the realm of creation, shattering a little bit in front of him. After his body and spirit were turned into nothingness, he was completely mad. This creation realm Daojun is not someone else, but one of his disciples. Why, even you have to force me? In the eyes of Ling Yu Tianzuan, a drop of blood and tears fell. Master, only by doing this, you will have a chance to fly to the upper realm in the future, Lao Qi. Don't you even understand being a teacher? The Daojun of creation realm wrapped in golden light, all over his body. Only his head has been shattered. This head opened his mouth with difficulty and said tremblingly, You don't deserve it. After all, this head has completely turned into nothingness. Seeing the disciples whom he had taught for thousands of years fall in front of him like this, Tianzuan Ling Yu was completely cold-hearted. Since you want to die, then die. When the words fell, the golden light around him suddenly burst out. The human monks who rushed towards Ling Yu Tianzuan, one counted as one, were all shattered by the golden light and turned into nothingness. The rest of the human race monks either had low cultivation bases or did not have the guts to fight with Ling Yu Tianzuan, and all looked at Ling Yu Tianzuan with horror. After killing the human monks who dared to resist, Ling Yu Tianzuan completely controlled the situation in Tianzuan City. Chen Daoxian stood outside Tianzuan City, coldly watching the other party slaughter these human race monks. But he couldn't do anything at all. These human race cultivators are in Tianzuan City, and their life and death are only between Ling Yu Tianzuan's thoughts. Even he can't rescue them at all. Ha ha ha. The Yaoting Emperor saw this scene and laughed wildly. Ling Yu, good job. Seeing that Chen Daoxian didn't say a word, the Yaoting Emperor pointed at Chen Daoxian and said, You and I will join forces to kill him together. It is good, Ling Yu Tianzuan said coldly. As of now, he has no way back. Chen Daoxian looked at Tianzuan City, which was being suppressed above his head, with an indescribable sadness in his heart. He never imagined that the sharp weapon of the human race would be used on his head one day. How ironic. Today you must die. Chen Daoxian was murderous. Then see who dies first. Ling Yu Tianzuan is also crazy, although he does not know why Chen Daoxian's strength is so strong. But this does not hinder his ambition to transcend tribulation and become immortal. Even if Chen Daoxian's strength is comparable to that of Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan, can you help him become a fairy? Even Emperor Slaughter Tianzuan himself has exhausted his lifespan, let alone Chen Daoxian. Even if Chen Daoxian is talented in the future and can take the last step, it will not help him become an immortal. Therefore, in the view of Ling Yu Tianzuan, his choice is correct. Chen Daoxian knew how terrifying the pressure of Tianzuan City was only when he was pressed by the power of Tianzuan City. It is no exaggeration to say that after performing the star, his basic strength has broken through the limitations of the 8 tribulations heavenly venerate, and has broken through to the true immortal level. But now being suppressed by Tianzuan town, Chen Daoxian feels that his strength has fallen to the realm of 8 tribulations Tianzuan. Tianzuan City is really extraordinary. It's just the power of repression that makes his power fall to a great realm. Today, you and I will join forces, and we will be able to kill the scorpion. After Yaoting Emperor finished speaking, he raised his stick and swept towards Chen Daoxian. Kill immortals. Chen Daoxian raised his axe and struck it horizontally. Boom. The Demon Court Emperor retreated violently. Damn. His axe hurt me too badly before. Plus the damage to the fairy weapon. This situation is still not his opponent. The Yaoting Emperor was annoyed in his heart. Chen Daoxian had just fought off the Demon Court Emperor. But before he had time to pursue him, a golden light hit him. It was the attack sent by Ling Yu Tianzuan driving Tianzuan City. Kill immortals. Chen Daoxian slashed out an axe again. Although he blocked the golden light, he was beaten by the golden light and rolled out. Fortunately, his divine body is strong, and the constellation technique in the divine body continuously provides power, which further enhances his defense. Therefore, although he was knocked out by this golden light, he was not injured. See, the Emperor Yaoting hurriedly swung his stick towards Chen Daoxian. Chen Daoxian forcibly stabilized his figure, swung his axe to meet him, and immediately knocked out the Demon Court Emperor. Being knocked flying by Chen Daoxian twice in a row, the Demon Court Emperor knew in his heart that he was far from Chen Daoxian's opponent. Thinking of this, the Demon Court Emperor has already begun to retreat and is unwilling to fight again. Ling Yu, send me back to the demon court. Ling Yu Tianzuan, who was controlling Tianzuan town to suppress Chen Daoxian, was stunned when he heard this, and hurriedly said, "Don't kill him." "Can you kill him?" The Yaoting emperor looked at the other party with a foolish expression. "Chen Daoxian can't beat you and me, but won't he run? As long as he runs, will you chase him, or I will chase him?" Hearing this, Ling Yu Tianzuan fell silent. Indeed, Tianzuan City, or all the immortal cities of the human race, are more than capable of defense, but insufficient to attack. The most typical feature is that the immortal cities of the human race cannot be moved. Although the Tianzuan who controls the fairy city can control it to move in a small area, it is undoubtedly a fool's dream to pursue the enemy of the true fairy level. Otherwise, the human race will not be beaten everywhere in the struggle with the world monster. The Emperor Yaoting looked at Ling Yu, whose face was gloomy and uncertain, and couldn't help but feel a little uneasy in his heart. It is afraid that Ling Yu will refuse. However, Ling Yu Tianzuan finally nodded. "Okay, I'll send you back to Yaoting." Hearing this, the Yaoting Emperor suddenly breathed a sigh of relief. He really didn't want to fight recklessly with the barbarian Chen Daoxian. The opponent's 3 consecutive days of chasing and killing left a deep shadow on him. Just as Chen Daoxian stabilized his body, he found that Ling Yu Tianzuan was actually performing world teleportation. Of course, he didn't want the two to flee. Burn the gods. The second form of opening the sky, beheading the god. With this axe, Chen Daoxian slashed directly towards Tianzuan City. In the eyes of Ling Yu Tianzuan, a giant axe that seemed to be able to open up the world slashed towards Tianzuan City. At this moment, there was nothing else in Ling Yu Tianzuan's eyes except this giant axe. He didn't care about his own world teleportation, and immediately controlled Tianzuan City with all his strength to resist the attack of this axe. The other side. But before Chen Daoxian's axe attacked, the Yaoting Emperor was teleported away by Ling Yu Tianzuan in advance. Before leaving, it saw again the axe that Chen Daoxian almost killed it 3 days ago. No, this axe is stronger than the previous axe. Boom! The entire inner domain is empty. It seemed that they were all lit up by the flames of this explosion. I don't know how long it took. The light went out, and the golden light on Tianzuan City completely dimmed. In Tianzuan City, Ling Yu Tianzuan stared blankly at Chen Daoxian, who was standing above his head like a god, and was shocked. "I said today, you must die," Chen Daoxian said murderously. 7017K, please remember this book's first domain name. Mobile version reading website, WAP. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.